That's a big shot down. He hooks himself back in. They want it. Kizzy's not here, but what was that? It's a pentakill. Go 1-for-1 position. Fire gets slammed into the wall to actually go to Olaf. There's the access shot, and he just flopping it. Yeah, point. Tries he might release the temperamentum, but he got down by a second. Chippy is on an absolute tear right now.
Good evening and welcome to LCO. I got a fresh face sitting beside me, at least for this split too. I got Max on the other couch, I got Skimmy, I've got Rusty. So of course I'm going to start with the nil face. Max, how are you? How are your exams?
I'm so good. They've been okay.
Yeah?
Haven't been as fun as this, and I've still got 3 left, so it's a bit of a grind, but happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. And what about you, Rusty, Skimmy? Did you guys enjoy your public holiday? Do anything special?
Not for me. I spent it all day indoors.
All days
playing
indoors.
games, as you should do.
The Vigima games?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have played a few video games that I will not say on air, but I have also been playing too much volleyball, so I'm very glad to come back to LCO and take days off where I can actually sit down and do nothing with my legs.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's got the old man joint pain.
Oh, it's so
a
bad
little bit
right
going
now.
on.
So bad. To be fair, 4 days a week of jumping is a
Do it
lot.
too.
Yeah.
I definitely couldn't do it. Let me put it that way. I definitely couldn't do it.
Esport together.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely do 4 days a week of League, though, but unfortunately, this week is only going to be 2 days. We do have our standings because last week was 2 days as well. There are... We gotta reiterate the point system. It's best of 2s in this split. So there was a format change. If you guys are just tuning in for the first time, in week 1, we saw all the teams play each other, but in a best of 2 format. So you're obviously rewarded for 2-0ing your opponent, which Bliss and Chiefs were able to do. That's why they have the 3 points for themselves. They got themselves the win. Then it was Ground Zero, Pentanet, Mammoth, and Kenga. They drew. They got 1 game apiece, and that means only 1 point each. And unfortunately, Direwolves and Vertex down there, Max, weren't able to get a single game win.
Well, have you noticed that all the teams with the animal logos are in the bottom 4 right now?
Oh, yeah. Oh, what's... Yeah, Mammoth, Kenga, Direwolves, and Vertex. What's up with that?
Yeah, I just realized that. And obviously, we do have the matchup between Direwolves and Vertex to settle, you know, which are the 2 wolves will come out on top. But yeah, I think no real surprises with Bliss and Chiefs coming out on top once again. Obviously, both teams were in finals last split, and have both retooled to become even better into this split. So, yeah, no surprises.
Yeah, there's probably something to be said a little bit about side selection as well on some of the shenanigans that happened over there on day 1, Rusty.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of blue side supremacy, I believe it was. We've seen teams pick red side, but ultimately lose with that selection also. And it could just be a case of OS meta. However, the LCK's got a 71% win rate on blue side as well, so it's definitely seeming one-sided.
We're
Yeah,
undefeated on blue side, right? It was like
We are 100%.
Yeah.
Skimmy knows these facts.
A little bit
He's got
cracked,
'em.
a little bit broken. What I wanted to ask Max, okay.
Okay, oh,
Really important
whoa,
questions.
yeah.
Okay, so we
Yeah,
got
straight in, huh?
we had the Classico, right, between Chiefs and Legacy. We've got countless different names between all these different orgs, like the Battle in Perth, the Battle of Brisbane, yada yada. If we got Vertex up against Direwolves, okay, 2 wolf packs, right? What are we thinking? Are we thinking is the Battle of the Sigmas?
It's got to be a dogfight, bro.
Okay.
It's got to be the dogfight.
I was wondering if we're going to go like full TikTok on it, and you're like, oh, he's the Omega, he's the Giga Chad, he's the Sigma
The beta,
Wolf.
the beta, the
Alpha
Sigma.
Wolf. The
Well,
Beta
that's what we'll
Wolf.
find out tonight. Who is the Sigma Wolf and who is
Yeah,
the Alpha Wolf and the Omega Wolf?
Oh, that's true, bro.
Which one stacks where? I have no idea because I
That's
don't
a lot
watch
of wolf.
TikTok.
Hey,
Quickly
we
looks
could-
up the
we
Greek
could-
alphabet,
yeah.
like, oh yeah, Delta and
Kappa? Yeah, somewhere.
and Roman, yeah.
Kappa Wolf.
I'm the Kappa Wolf. I'm always capping. Except for today's schedule, Team Bliss, Mammoth is going to be kicking off today. And then, of course, Max, you already hinted towards that Direwolves Vertex matchup there. Of finding out the TikTok rankings of the Wolves, as Skim
Straight
put
up.
it.
As per Skimmy.
As per
As
me,
per Skimmy.
I'll claim the cringe. I always do. But look, those are the hard-hitting facts from my side. That's why I'm not the analyst on this show, right? I get to speak facts, and you guys try and make sense of it.
Oh, I just get to speak things, and then
I
they say if
things,
it's facts or not.
I don't think. They come out. You say, huh? And I go, okay, moving on.
Next thing,
Yeah.
while we are on this schedule graphic, I do want to point out to you guys that the numbers underneath the team names is just the wins, the draws, and the losses in which they've accumulated for themselves. So even though we did just look at the standings, it is Bliss with a win for themselves, Mammoth having a draw, and then Direwolves and Vertex having a loss. So if you're either of those teams, Direwolves or Vertex, it's a nice day for you because you know you will, at minimum, be walking away with 1 point.
for getting
For
a
one
win.
of the team. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
which is more
The
than...
best of two format really messed my head for
Yeah.
a second there.
It's not as someone's going to
Yes.
win. It's someone is getting a point.
Yes, you
in
will
this
at
series.
minimum get a point
Yeah.
for one of the teams.
Yeah, someone's going to be still at the bottom,
Yes.
potentially. But that bottom could
That
be
was
1
a
point.
ride.
It's tough. Best
was
of twos is tough.
I was hanging on to that sentence for dear life.
It's
They're
like-
trying to figure out what it all meant.
Before when Max was like, we find out who's better in the wolf pack, they could be the same.
Yeah, it could end up in the
It
exact
could be
same
1 and
situation.
1.
He
Yeah.
was like staring up into the distance. I'm like, you okay over
I was
there,
trying to do the
mate?"
maths in my head to run it up, but I think going back to your point about like the scoring system, having clean 2 zeros actually makes a lot of difference
Yeah.
in the long run, right? When you're having 1-1's only worth 1, a best of 2-0 win is worth triple that, right?
Yep.
So if we're talking about separation, looking at teams like Bliss and Chiefs, who are, you know, obviously the favorites heading into this split, if they are wanting to get ahead and not stay even, you know, making sure you don't drop any silly mistakes or even drop a game here or there to teams lower is going to be really crucial.
I mean, if you think about it, 2-0ing someone gives you a buffer of 2 draws, right? Like, you can draw and maybe someone else wins or whatever. It gives you that buffer zone a little bit. So it is really nice that for Chiefs and Bliss, they were able to come out of the gates and get a 2-0. For everyone else, like, this week 2 is going to be what they're looking for, especially those who happen to unfortunately go up against Bliss and Chiefs last
I
week.
suppose also, I think you actually mentioned it the other day as well about, you know, there's a much more likelihood of locking in playoffs that much earlier in the season as well, right? So you have that leeway if perhaps an upset happens, a patch not too familiar with, the meta maybe unfolds in an uncharacteristic way, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, what is our game plan? Doesn't matter, weeks 3, 4, whatever it may be, we're locked in for you because you managed to get the clean 2-0. So the best team should be rewarded for it.
Yeah, well, speaking of unfamiliar patches, we're now on 13.11. So we've got some notes. We're going to start off with our champions, who's been nerfed, who's been buffed, and the adjustments that's happened over there, Rusty.
Yeah, so a lot of changes. Not a lot of it going to be massively impactful for competitive, other than the fact that Ivan and Rel aren't going to be available, as I'll continue to talk through the word of Mumu that was just said over me very rudely, as we talk about important changes. And Mumu's nerf is only big for solo queue, and it's not even a big nerf. I don't think we'll see it in competitive just yet. There's always a chance. There's always a chance that team just does Bronzodia, right? It can work. The one that I just want to quickly highlight before we move on is actually the Azir change. They're really trying to make Azir feel like he has better quality of life with the WMAX build. So I do like the changes that they put forward here for him. And if people can find, you know, the happy place with items, spike timings, and make Azir work, he's potentially in a really good spot. So he's on my maybe list for seeable champions.
And my special pick of the day that I want to point out here is Rek'Sai, particularly in the top lane. So obviously the change in the item rework, removing the dash on Prowler's Claw, really hurt the assassin sort of one-shot Rek'Sai build. So Riot's more indexed into her being a bruiser. So now she's got insane lane sustain from basically level 4 onwards. If you're able to hit a wave, you are able to heal basically your full HP bar in a wave or 2, right? Which is crazy in a lot of melee matchups. They've buffed her Q cooldown. Her E, I was playing the other day, like 700 plus true damage at 3 items. It's crazy. You're basically doing Camille levels of damage as this champion that's hyper mobile and good in team fights as well. So obviously this is the first week we're seeing this patch in the LCO, so not sure whether it will come out this week, but particularly looking as the weeks go on and we're continuing to play on this patch, this is definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on.
Items as well, also getting a little bit of change in 13.11. And Skimmy, I haven't heard from you yet. You got to give me a little bit of info about what's happening. Yeah, come on.
Look, I'm ready for it. So obviously there's been a whole bunch of changes. Some of the items actually got a little bit, you want to say overtuned going into this mid-season sort of rework, right? So you're looking at items in particular, Yomu's Ghostblade gets a bit of a heavy-handed nerf bat towards it, right? So you're looking to basically say it shouldn't just be a default build where you get so handsomely rewarded for roaming all the time, and you know, all this bonus lethality stacks up super easily. So that's been toned down a fair, but that's one that I really do like. Static Shiv, I think it was always quite gold efficient, but now they've actually just made it a little bit stronger. There's now a big ask of it actually being found across the board for a lot of these champions. A lot of champions, especially that lack wave clear. So you think of champions like Veigar, LeBlanc, for instance, have been picking these up. Even AD carries, Vayne, Kaiser, Caitlyn, perhaps. I think Max was telling us before, right? Perhaps on a Veigar build, 3-4 items in, you've got enough of those stacks built up. Next minute, you're just flashing in their face. There's an empowered auto attack, and suddenly, hang on, where's my HP gone, right? So the point and click, get outplayed, you can't beat that, right? So it's kind of crazy in that regard. A couple of other things that are notable, right, is Navori Quick Blades have been changed up a little bit. They've removed the ability haste component, more damage instead. I think that's always been a little bit conflicting, given it reduced your CDs anyway, so that's a nice little change. But it does feel like, you know, you are still going to be very much dominated by the meta of Gale Force as well as Infinity Edge, right? Mobility is just too strong. especially when there's so many champions looking to try and pounce upon you. So a lot of these changes, we're looking to just try and target what's really OP at the moment. I don't think it's the most heavy-handed. I mean, you get like 20 damage off Echoes of Helia. I mean, it's still going to be spammed. It's a little bit too broken.
Yeah, that was sort of going to be my follow-up question to you, Max, is with these item changes, do you think that that's going to influence heavily on champions picked up, where they're played, the flexibility, or even viability of certain champions that we've seen so far in week 1?
I think the Duskblade changes particularly help some jungle champions like Kha'Zix. I know Rusty and I were talking about it backstage, but you have invulnerability, you have your ultimate invisibility, you have Duskblade invulnerability, you have your double jump that you're going to have evolved, right? So much mobility that actually makes this champion viable in a competitive environment, right? Where people would be trying to track you down. Also, another couple other picks, Kalista and Samira. Samira, especially the way she Duskblade. I don't know if it got bug fixed this patch or it was the next patch.
I think it was this one.
Yeah, so basically they removed that mechanic where she could just spin around in her ult and be invulnerable, but still, it's a lot of early game damage, and particularly taking it away from something like Youmuu's, which was the really heavy, favorite for lethality, has definitely changed up the champion pool there.
All right, interesting. I do want to see if it's going to be this week we see those changes, or if you like what you said, sometimes those does take a little bit of time to adapt and have a change up on what is being picked and banned for themselves. But before we look at any matchups, before we go further into champions, item builds, all that sort of stuff, power rankings. Max?
Power rankings.
Yes.
Yes.
Now that we've got you back on the couch.
So, if you will follow me to the TV, we
I'm
have
following.
some power rankings. Now, production's going to have to remind me what I put in my 8th to 6th spot, because I looked at it. I looked at it today, guys, and when I tell you that I feel like I did something very wrong 2 weeks ago, I apologize. So, in 8th, we have Kanga. Now, the reason I put this team in 8th, sorry to my brother, but it's Shinky. Like, this guy was not a top laner. Everyone knew that coming in. He just doesn't play the role. You have an autofill support. Out of all the roles you wouldn't want to be autofilling a role, it's probably support. No offense, Rusty. But it's definitely something that was a big liability for me going in. And as well, like, they've got Fido. He was good, but for me, Mayfun didn't really show up last split too much. And their bot lane with Jake coming back was a strong point, but overall still didn't really give me enough. On to the next team, which I had Ground Zero in at 7th. This was another team that was sort of, to me, just like, they didn't really show me that much over their Split 1 performance. I think Tron has been a player who can stand out and carry games. We saw that on his Olaf last week against Shinky, which I kind of got this right, but I did put this 1-1, so I can't take all the credit for it. But overall, just a rookie team that I think still needs a fair amount of time to develop before they are really contesting for higher in the standings.
I'm enjoying this hard sell, by the way, because Max is the only other person who had those two in 7 and 8 like me. So it's good that we get justification from someone else, and I have to just...
Tim, do you remember what you put in 8?
Yeah, 8 was Vertex for me.
Oh.
I got it here if you need as well.
Yeah, what did I put in 8?
What did you put? Vertex.
Yeah, you put Vertex the third last then, didn't you, Rusty?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Vertex, that is the team that I had in number 6. Now, this one...
Great mind.
I wanted to change this, by the way. I did want to change this because Vertex to me have been, I don't know, the biggest disappointment sounds harsh, but like overall, I just don't think... We've had a
say it anyway,
We've
bro.
had a village on set, by the way. Stevie has...
I'm like, okay, so for context, I can see my hair going into the shot, and I'm like trying to be so careful of not ruining your big moment. So I'm like, yeah, put the water down gently. Mate, I've just had an absolute hazard.
It's all right. Nothing's been
Just
damaged.
don't slip over.
Nothing's been damaged. I'll
Careful,
try my
mate.
best not to fall.
I'll hold your hand back.
Thank you. I would
Thank you.
appreciate that. But yeah, Vertex to me, they're the youngest out of all of these teams, right? Basically, all these players are rookies. Tomasino and Forever not having the strongest starts individually. They were really worrying to me because it was sort of errors that were being made. I liked Forever in terms of he was getting punished for over-aggression, which out of a rookie is probably one of the better things to be getting punished for. But Tomasino just seemed like fundamentally in lane, he was just getting ran through a little bit. So that's why I had them so low in the standings. Coming in at number 5, I had the team that will be revealed in a second, which is Mammoth. Now, Mammoth to me...
Memory test, impossible challenge.
It really is. Now, Mammoth to me is a team, and this is basically the same for the whole top 5. I really think it could be quite interchangeable depending on how they go through the split. I'd say top 2, which we'll get to later, obviously, is like a bit harder to break into, but Mammoth, especially with the upgrades to the support role, TN is someone who is one of the few carry top laners who can actually execute on that role in-game. And I think that he can definitely lead the team alongside Sully. They're just a very explosive team, right? I think that they have opportunities to carry in basically every single role, and that's, to me, what makes them exciting. Now, coming in at number 4, I believe I put PGG. Now, the reason I put PGG here is because they didn't make any changes, and they were not convincing last split. They had an entire split to improve, playing PCS, playing LCO, and I think that their bot lane something about it wasn't enabling Violet the same way that we had seen from PGG in the past, right? Where Violet is able to get on these hyper carries and completely blow up in a game. It just wasn't there for me. And, hopefully, as we see the split go on, we can see that they've improved in playing around that win condition. But the fact that they didn't make any changes makes me hesitant to put them above this.
Direwolves did beat them in playoffs after all, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
be remiss not to have them potentially above them in power rankings.
Yes, which is going to be my number 3rd team, the Direwolves. Now, for me, Direwolves, this is one of the teams that was just a straight upgrade in the offseason. Getting Sharka, who I think was one of his standout players, and we were sort of discussing this a little bit when we were talking about what does this change really mean, is that he sort of plays a similar role as Poltron in that he is a facilitator, but he just does it to a higher level. And when you're playing with a Direwolves team like Zoranus, who was my pick for best top laner in Split 1, Chaz and Pradith, right, all of these players have their own unique take and ability to carry the game. You need someone who's acting like the glue, like the Dennis Rodman or Scottie Pippen, to facilitate this team coming together and being able to win. So that's why I have Direwolves at 3.
You got that, Nat? You understand that one?
Absolutely not, brother.
Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan. You don't know Scottie Pippen?
Why would I know that team?
Okay, sorry. Anyway.
Don't worry, Max, I understand.
Okay, thanks.
Michael Jordan, the GOAT.
I'm glad someone
but
got
not the whole
it.
team.
He's
not the whole
just dropped all his
Chicago Bulls.
knowledge at one moment.
I'm glad someone got it. Coming in at number 2,
I watch basketball.
I love the NBA.
we have Team Bliss.
Do you?
So, the reason I had Team Bliss
Go the
here
Lakers.
was, one, they lost in versus Chiefs. I think this was so hard, 1 and 2 was very, very hard to call. But I think the reason I still have them at 2 is just because overall Chiefs started from a stronger position heading into the baseline, and I think that the upgrades that they made are sort of comparable in level, right? I think obviously Bliss having Arkia, replacing Benby, who was probably their biggest liability. Shout out Ben, I love you, but you played pretty bad in finals. So replacing him definitely going to upgrade the team, but I think that it obviously requires some integration as well from the fact that, they're going to have Scott in, they're going to be working with the language barrier. There's a few more obstacles to overcome compared to my number 1 team, the Chiefs. Now, obviously, Kevy coming back, my GOAT. Kevy was one of the best, bit of bias, but Kevy is one of the best junglers in this region for a reason, right? He was on one of these posters not very long ago. I'm sure we'll see him up there soon because he's able to play carries, and his time in NA actually enabled him to learn some of the tanks as well. That was sort of the hole in his playstyle, if you would say, right? He wasn't known to be able to facilitate the team, but now he's had time internationally to be able to learn that role. He's had time to be able to carry as well, so he can really do everything, and the Chiefs, top 2, top 1 players in every role, they're just a beast.
That's true. Definitely true. Also, everyone but me have Chiefs at first from memory, so this is definitely one of those situations where apparently I've gone for the dark horse.
I think that one was a bit of a coin flip. I won't lie. I sat there and I was just like, tomato, tomato,
Did you
until we see
actually
them
flip
play.
a coin?
It was like a metaphorical
Oh, you should have.
coin flip. I should have. I definitely should have. But it felt like a metaphorical coin flip where you were just like, we haven't seen them play. I didn't have any inside knowledge about scrims. Anything changed up for them. So I was just like, how much can you really base this on? And even with some of that knowledge, you're just like, damn, they're both good.
I think it'd be kind of cool to see like another team dominate a region for a fair bit of time. And we've had areas in the past. Obviously, I wasn't around at the time, but I know Direwolves had their stint.
No, I've had errors, mate. You
When
look at
was
me
that?
when you say
When
errors.
was
I
that?
know what you're
You
saying.
tell
As
me,
you,
what was that, like
how many
2018,
decades? How many
2019? I was like the
decades?
Direwolves era, and then we had Legacy in 2020, just absolutely crush it, do the back-to-back. Obviously, that's what Chiefs are on right now. It'd be kind of crazy if they could do the three-peat, especially given they had to, 5 years or so for their last title to get to where they are now. So it'd be kind of cool to
The last team
see.
that did a three-peat, I believe, was the Chiefs.
Yeah, so it'd just be cool to sort of see, a new chapter, obviously a new competition, be it the LCO nowadays. Stamp your authority, say, we've been here since day 1, but we're still, at the top of the table.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if they are that team to do it or if someone else is going to be able to break that stride for them. But I'm going to break a stride in our conversation. We're not going to talk about the teams anymore. Instead, we're going to talk about our lovely fans. If you guys didn't know, we always have our From the Fans segment where you guys can tweet at us using hashtag LCO. And this week, it was the question, what champ to permaban? So if you want to have your say, if you want to share some of your knowledge on why a certain champ should be permabanned, go ahead, tweet at us, use that hashtag. And I do believe we've already had some people tweet at us on who their permaban champ is. It's the cat. Doesn't matter where she at, we ban
Yes,
the cat.
mate.
I
Yes.
also like how much that rhymed.
Yes.
Get sourced being very much on Rusty's side.
Down with the cat. At all times, down with the cat. That's why I want bans in ARAM.
Oh, for the
just
cat.
to ban the cat.
I'm with him on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, one
Now
time,
we're cooking,
one
bro.
time.
Okay.
Oh, I said the A words. Kevy's on.
Yeah, he's on.
Jeez,
Let's keep this rolling. Let's get something else from another fan. Only Josh in TV said Timo. Timo's his permaban champ.
Yeah, that's the bane of like top lane experience when you're learning the game, I think. Especially if you try to pick literally anything melee, it is just horrible to play against. In terms of it being actually a good pick, it's not very good, but its annoyance factor is by far and above.
I was gonna say, I think
greatest.
that's just newbie in general. Like,
Yeah.
if you're just coming into League and you're just like, what the frick does this champion do? Why? Why? Why is that? What is? Why?
It's so annoying. It has the Astro laugh as well on one of those skins. It just
It's
drives
triggering.
you insane.
Absolutely triggering.
The devil.
Yeah. And one more from our fans there, Vex. I only play Dash champions and she makes me sad.
True.
Sad face.
I thought he played AD carries.
What do we have? We had the Vex meta for such a long time, right? When we only had like LeBlancs and Aries, and then Vex was like, I want to say it's 2020.
Has she been out that long?
2021.
No, 2021, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember it would be like Kise and Kyosei and all the rest of them would all be like spamming those champions. Just be this like trifecta of like, get dashed on, mate. Get countered, get feared, but get dashed again. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, a little bit unenjoyable.
Good times.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe
Good.
good to watch, but not for anyone actually playing or anything like that. But let's turn our eyes to the people that are playing. We've got Team Bliss coming up against Mammoth, and we're going to talk about Bliss first because these boys, you've already said it, Max, they're in your top 2. They came second last split, and you know, they've been looking good already. They're up to a good start last week.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't get any better with a 2-0 week, right? I think this is their first, true test. I mean, they kind of dispatched their week 1 opponent quite easily, and Arkia as well as a player who definitely lived up to his expectations. I think we're going to see here. I remember this Thresh game, he was playing absolutely out of his mind, landing hook after hook onto Praedyth, making the game so hard to play. And when you are having an import, we've had some histories in the region of imports not really living up to their expectations, their hype, but so far Arkia is certainly doing so.
We've also had some top Oons, right, that have come through and just been absolutely insane. Mimic as well. A lot of them have actually been top laners, coincidentally. But Arkia, so far, so good for sure. And remember that Team Bliss in their first match, while it was a 2-0, it was also against the Direwolves, and it never really looked like they were at any shot of losing to the Direwolves. And that is a good team, right? You had them in 3rd. I think most of us had them in top 4 predictions early on as well.
Yep.
And to make it look this convincing is a fantastic debut for someone like Arkia, right? To strut his stuff in the league.
And the thing to me that I love about Bliss is they always play like they're in the lead. They always play with confidence. This is why I think they're going to be so successful. As we take a look on the other side of the coin, Mammoth, Yersan, finally debuting. He's played everywhere basically, and we're finally getting to see him here in O's.
Yep. Something that stood out for me for Mammoth last week was actually something he said about Team Bliss, except on the other side of the coin, right? There were moments where Mammoth were behind, but the way that they played, the way that they still tried to find certain initiations, it didn't feel like they were at the gold deficit they actually were. They could have been down 7k gold, but they didn't play like it. They were still contesting things at potential disadvantages.
I think that's going to be a bit of a characteristic shared between both junglers in particular, right? You saw that Sully wanted to showcase that, hey, I'm going to be doing my own thing. Did just that, right? Played 2 games at the Kha'Zix, was very aggressive, was hunting, was always, contesting objectives, stole away a few, actually. So you're expecting to see that be a big focal point in this series, this best of 2. But I think, yeah, Yersan should be an interesting one, right? From all accounts as to what we really should expect of them. Hasn't been in the country long, haven't really had a chance to scrim with the team too often, so should set our standards, realistically, or expectations rather. But, you look at their match history, very aggressive melee bruiser player, right? You're going to expect all the classics, your Nautiluses, your Freshers, your Leonas, and so on. Actually spent a stint in TSM Academy with Babbitt a couple of years ago as well, so it's all come full circle in a way. You've had the NA experience, then you're coming down under.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to go the other way. You go from here over to NA, but so far a lot of people coming back towards us. It's been nice for us to.
We're Southeast Asia now.
Yeah.
So
Oast,
is
mate.
it an upgrade? Is
It's like an
PCS greater
across.
than
It's
NA,
like it's
right?
like now
that's
an across. Like on an actual map, it literally is just across.
It is actually straight across. Yeah, no, we've got a lot of returning players, a lot of people to be excited for.
Equator Gaming.
Yeah, Equator Gaming right across it.
It's hot.
We started off with Team Bliss. We do have a Team Bliss member here to chat with us. We get to talk with Lived. Hi. We saw you last week, Lived, but I know this time a bit of a different background. You guys aren't in boot camp anymore, so what are the differences to it? Are you enjoying being back at home, having a bit more freedom from the boys?
It's nice to be back home, but I think being with everyone feels right. So I think being back with everyone would be nice.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that you faced not being in boot camp now? How many days has it also been? 5 days since you've been home?
I think around 5-6 days
Okay.
we've been away from each other now. But I think it's like a little bit worse. But I think overall we're still in a pretty good spot. So I don't think too much will change.
Okay.
And speaking of changes, obviously Arkia coming in, how has the integration process been like with him? How are you looking to, develop as the split goes on with him in the support role?
I think we're definitely becoming a lot stronger on the bot side. I think we've definitely got a style down now. So I think he's integrated very well into the team actually, and I think we're still figuring it out a little bit, but I think we've nearly got it down. So it will be perfect gameplay from here on out, I'm sure.
That's a big call. I want to ask, now that a lot of other leagues are sort of kicking off and you guys having a bit more spare time and not boot camping, are there any other regions you're watching, or is there a specific region that you're taking a lot of inspiration for in the way you guys either are drafting or playing or trying out in scrims?
Well, we do have 2 imports from Korea, so I would say we take a lot of inspiration from them. They give us a lot of the info we need, to be honest.
Nice.
But I think everyone on the team just watches pretty much all the leagues except for probably like NA, so probably take inspiration from all the other ones, the big ones at least.
Alright, cool.
Now, Tristan, I've got a bit of a gameplay question. Feel free to not answer if it's going to give away anything. Rek'Sai Top, have you heard of it? Have you played it? What are your thoughts on it? I'm trying to convince everybody.
Well, I just played a game of it last night, so I am interested in it. I think it could be a good pick.
It's good, right?
It's definitely interesting. It could be good, yeah.
You heard it there first. That's a pro endorsement of the pick.
Great. Thank goodness it's not just Max that's going on about it. You reckon it's any chance of ever being picked up for yourself though, Lived? Is it like that level of enjoyment?
Maybe not.
Okay, I like it. I think that's a good note to end this interview on, Liv. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck today.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was the way that he explained not being at the boot camp anymore was actually the cutest thing.
Yeah,
It's
he's
like,
like,
it's
I
been
kinda
6
miss the
days
boys.
since we've been together.
He's got it marked on his wall. He's got a little tally going on.
He's like actually counting down. He's like, if we make it to the finals, it's
We'll be
only
back
like
together.
it's only 38 more days till I see the boys again. No,
Yeah,
it's
it was
He's definitely got
adorable.
an app with reminders.
oh, 100%.
It's our anniversary.
Yeah.
Discord call with the boys. Kisses all around. Love
He's
you,
like,
boys.
did
love
you get the
boys.
flower delivery? Did
That's
they
it.
arrive?
That's
Yeah.
it.
He does seem like that sort of person as well.
Good on him.
No, it's good. There's always a difference. Some teams actually prefer being sort of from home. They like having that break, having that disconnect. And I just wondered where Team Bliss sat with it. Whether they were the team that's like, no way, like we love boot camping because I love being able to walk into someone's like room or PC area and just be like, bro, what do you think about this matchup? What do you think about if we ran this?
I think last split, or at least last time we spoke to him about it, they all had these like joint anime parties, didn't they? They'd all just like, that was their bonding session outside of scrims. It was like, oh, we're going to watch a show together, and if you didn't watch that, it's like, off the team, mate.
Out
Gone.
of it. Well, Lived and Team Bliss, they've been a lot of fun, but we want to talk about Mammoth and talk to their new support player as well. Yersin is joining us here. Yersin, hi. How are you feeling?
Very good.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you, how did the opportunity to join Mammoth come about?
It's my manager, Maka, asked me, can I go to the Mammoth Young? Yeah.
Okay.
So that's it. I come here.
Nice and easy. Awesome.
Lovely. Now, obviously, you're entering the league new. So is Arkia. What do you think of Arkia? Do you think he's good? Do you think you're better?
I think he is good, but I better. So,
Good.
Okay, you're better.
Yeah.
Nice.
And what is your biggest strength that you bring to a team, or what are you bringing to Mammoth here?
Sorry. Can I ask? Chan, can you translation a little bit?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what do you think is
Yeah.
your strong point as a player?
A strong point, like who very good?
No, for you personally, when you play, what is your strength? Is it how you support in lane? Is it rotations?
I think it's rotation in the lane. I think my lane very good.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, what's your favorite champion? This is a get to know you segment. Favorite champ?
Okay. I'm pretty sure it's Alistar.
Alistar?
Yeah.
I saw your win rate was like 65% in your career on Alistar, so it looks pretty good.
Oh. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, Yersin, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck today.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You already knew his favorite champ answer. You saw that one coming.
No, it wasn't his. It's not his most played. It's like his third
really?
most played.
What is his most?
Nautilus and then Leona.
Nautilus, Leona, and then Alistar,
Alistar.
Rakan, I believe.
Okay,
Even
all
though-
right. Someone's got the
Yeah,
statistics.
right,
I just said an extra number in
Alright.
pride. He's like, did you say 3.141?
Yeah, well, we can go over
Okay.
159. What are the win rates and everything else though?
Don't read
Oh, I
those
don't have
out.
those.
Don't
Okay.
read
I
those.
don't have those.
They were
I don't have
30%,
those.
30%, and like 62%. So
Oh, old mate studier.
Yeah.
Old mate
How
exam,
good?
mate.
He's
I think
cramming it
Archie
in.
good. I'm better.
I'm
Archie
better.
good, I'm better.
To be
So
fair, I
good.
thought he said Archie was beta, and I was like, damn, the
I
trash
love the
talking
accent.
start. And
That's
then I was
exactly
just
the
like,
talk. That's a based accent.
Yeah.
it's base, but no, he was like, we're better.
Yeah.
With this best of 2 format, though, we do have the side selection to show you guys. It is both picked before they even come into this one. Both of them picking blue side, so I think a massive learning curve for a lot of teams after week 1. Both of them just going for blue side there, Rusty.
Yeah, and for me, the big question is, like, in regards to pick ban, will Milio ever be available to be picked? Because in other regions, she is being picked almost 50% equally with the ban rate. And then you can kind of handshake the Yuumi trade, right? Like, we've seen a lot of teams playing that in other regions. In OS, nah, no Yuumi. Just doesn't exist. So I'm wondering what it's going to take for that to happen, because that changes the pick ban a lot and opens up a lot more. But for now, I think it's just blue side superior.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. And I think in terms of when you're looking at bot lane meta, you know, this patch, Jinx and Ophelia are slightly weaker, definitely still viable. To me, the other champions that are available, stuff like Lucian, stuff like the Zeri, are actually quite like enabled by those support picks, right? So you wouldn't really want to pick them, you know, by themselves. But if you have a Milio, if you have a Yuumi, that becomes a whole new avenue you can explore. So to me, like, the bans and the drafting is going to be really important to see what actually gets through.
If you guys feel like you know who's going to be winning this matchup between Bliss and Mammoth, then you can have your fan dare vote. It's all the way over there. Yeah, Max, you show them actually. I don't even know why I'm trying here. Where
Right.
exactly can they go? Oh my god, yeah, just over there. You guys can use your points.
Someone's going to do it when Mac's not here. Okay?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I said give me to the end of split. I might have muscles half the size of Max. I might be able to finally do 1 push-up, guys.
Big goals.
Big
Half the
goals.
size of Max, big goals.
Hey, you know what they say? Dream big or don't dream at all.
No,
Never heard that
That's
one.
what they say.
No.
I've never
That's
heard.
what Nat T
yeah,
said.
yeah, that's
2023.
And when I say them, I mean me. That is what I say. Dream big or don't dream at all. I want to know what your predictions were, though, guys. We've talked about where the fans can go for their predictions, but for us, I've gone for the 2-0 on Bliss here. Don't ask me why. I will not talk about it. Max and Skimmy, though, gone for the draw.
I know why.
Oh, yeah? Why is that one?
Because I
then?
asked you what you wanted, and you said Bliss. That's it.
And everyone in the green room laughed at me.
Okay, I've got some hard-hitting facts here. Blue side is won every single game.
Yeah.
Blue side.
I
blue
didn't
side.
look at side
It's a
selection.
1-1.
I didn't look at side selection.
Neither did I.
This is what
I'm the prophet.
he just knew.
You know, if you
He
think
is
hard
full
enough,
of information we
you know,
don't have.
the conviction becomes
saw
a
it.
reality.
Are you like an 8-ball? If I like shake you up, you'll give me answers to all the
as,
questions.
as a
I
wise
just
man
asked.
once said, he said, if you
Dream
don't buy a
big.
Dream
ticket,
big or don't dream at
if you
all.
don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery, mate. So you know what? I shook that 8 ball.
Practically the same thing.
Gotta have a
said,
horse in
go
the
hard,
race
go
to win the
home, mate.
race, mate.
Yeah.
That's the way it
You
goes.
don't lay a brick, you don't get a house, mate.
You
Forget
gotta,
lane.
you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
That's a real quote. That's a real one.
They,
That's
like,
nice.
You say it like I don't have real quotes.
You literally said a non-real quote 3 seconds ago.
Anything can be a quote if you dream big enough.
If you don't have a chicken, you don't have a farm. There you go, mate.
All your quote
Carry on.
needs
That's not
taken
true.
care of. Twitch.tv/LCO.
I'm trying to make new ones up on the fly.
Farms don't need chickens.
They could.
The chicken farm needs chicken.
They could.
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Definitely the chicken.
Nah.
Just popped out of the air. Yeah, g'day, mate. Where are we dropping? Bang.
Hot drop.
Just lands in a farm. He's like, bet.
Bet this is
Yeah.
it. Evolution.
For real on God 100. Eggplant emoji. XD. Laugh crying emoji.
For real, no cap. Got
I'm
it.
sorry, Zach. Eh.
Yeah, I have to cast with this.
I'm sorry, man.
I have to work with this.
Wait, wait,
My
okay.
head is just like, wee, wee,
Okay,
wee,
so
wee.
just give me your reasoning for going for a draw was because blue side's 100%,
That's right.
but you didn't know that they would go 1-1 on blue side.
Look. I took a gamble, took a stab in the dark, and it's just landed on heads. Clearly.
Do you have
gone for
any
the
other
hard read.
reasoning,
Yeah, mate.
Max, as to why you went for the draw?
I think Bliss looked very, very strong, but I think that also Mammoth haven't really shown much with Yersan, and I think that if they can sneak a win, it could be right now. That being said, I don't think sneaking is really the right term because I think they are actually quite similar in individual skill level to something like Bliss.
Yeah.
And I think that when you are playing multiple games, there's always a chance for a slip up. So to me, a draw just made the most sense.
Okay, and then 2-0 profit over there, Rusty.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I have Bliss finishing the split in first place, so I do have to back my boys in pink.
Okay.
The second reason is that I think that Dajong can't keep up with Daystar. I just think the difference between mid laners is too big, and if you think back to last week when Mammoth lost their game, it was a lack of mid priority resulting in bot dives, and it's very hard to play the game if you're Chaeyoung when your mid laner is not able to influence the game. So I'm actually just believing in the Daystar supremacy.
Right. It was that matchup on the side of Mammoth where they gave him the mid lane.
It was Gragas into
Yeah,
Nico,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and the Gragas just lost priority.
I
for
do remember that one now. I was
Yeah.
thinking of a different matchup, but yeah, that one was they weren't really sure the Gragas was going to go there, and then it did end up going there, and then they were like, oh, I guess we're just going to stack that mid lane, and it is what it is, and hopefully we can win through other means.
In
Just shows
theory,
you how
though, it was
important it
good.
is, though, like mid lane priority. You need a certain champion profile, otherwise
Yeah.
your team kind of just falls flat. Like, kind of just, where are we? What are we doing? I mean, talking about that point about the Daystar sort of argument, I kind of want to agree with it, because I think they've only versed each other once, and Daystar played Yone, and Dajong tried to like cheese him with a mid.
Was that the Zac? That was
Yeah.
the Zac
Tried
game?
him with a mid Zac. Like, that's the only time they've versed each other. So I think you need to be, especially from Dajong's court, be a little bit creative and say, okay, Daystar, how can I throw you off? Because he has an encyclopedia of champions.
So you reckon this is going to be like its own inner meta as well between these two mid laners, where we might not see what they bring out happen in other matchups because they are just, you know, had this rivalry and this skill sort of difference?
Yeah, well, to me, that's the question, is if Mammoth do just go with the strategy of we're just going to pick something hyper safe mid lane that's just not going to die. You know,
Right.
maybe concede a little bit of CS and prior and then let TN, Sully and Chaeyoung carry the game, right? So obviously your non-standard picks, like something like a Gragas, something Nico, to just neutralize matchups and just pray not to die.
Okay. We do have a little bit of a delay, which is why we're still talking about this
I
matchup.
figured it out.
Oh, yes.
Dajong's going to bring out the Zoe. He's going to finally get his first win on stage with it. He's going to say Static Shiv. Oh, I've got Wave Clear. Oh, I've got Prio. Oh, one shot, bang. Daystar.
Daystar picks Yasuo.
Well,
It's banned out.
It gets banned out.
It's banned out.
Daystar picks Yone.
Yasuo, Yone ban, and one other champion.
And then you ban Milio because we just continue the 100% ban rate. Why not?
Yeah. Got to pad the stats and,
Yeah, man.
you know,
Doesn't
the
win
region
mid.
stats.
Look, man,
The
let me
Milio ban doesn't win the Zoe matchup.
Let me live in my fantasy here for 2 seconds. Static Shiv.
You
It's
just want a
happening.
Remember,
static shiv.
I do want a Static Shiv.
It's fun.
He literally just said at the start of this that Skimmy's just going to say things and you guys just have to back it up. And he's saying Zoe mid, and now you have to make it work, Rusty.
Do I? Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Wow, Rusty, that is interesting. Another interesting fun thing is Max and I are going to go away because Champs looks ready.
Wow. Thank you, Nat, for going away. We will now talk like this. Are you ready, Rusty, for a banger?
I am so ready.
Thank you.
Let's see if those bans, Skibby, are catered towards a Zoe pick.
Hey, look, mate. 1 of 3.
One of 3. The
not bad.
The
It's not
Milio ban, 1 of 3. The number one thing that I wanted to highlight here, first and foremost, is a couple of champions that we haven't seen much of in OS. Is the Gwen is one of them.
Yes.
Is going to be taken away, and this time Nico is going to be banned away from Bliss. Mammoth's only win, Dajong looked fantastic on the pick, right? 3-man ults, 4-man ults was showing up in a big way. But by going for these bans, and specifically Gwen being removed as a target ban and the Scion being taken away, opens up the floor for a very easy flex here for Bliss.
Oh, absolutely. And I think with the Cassante, it's so frustrating to go into, right? Because from a red side perspective, what do? Do you hold your counter pick for your top lane so that they don't get the luxury of flexing that Cassante with that first pick priority? It's a tough conundrum to try and wonder as to how you really want to approach this one. But regardless, Mammoth going to open up their account here very quickly and say, no Eddie carry bans, we've got the Piggler litter, Jinx is our priority, and we want to give ourselves an Ahri, which is definitely up that alley of being a really good facilitator.
Yeah, Gragas taken off the board removes a bit of the Yasuo combo, so to speak, right? And of course, it's just a facilitative mid laner, so Daystar still has his choice. He could still be the Cassante if he wants to.
Absolutely.
Right, and can still play into this lane relatively fine. I like to think of Cassante as tank Yasuo, to be honest, right? The Q3 passive, etc., dashes everywhere.
Yeah.
Has the all-out mode, which is a big movement-based ultimate. So would not be shocked to see them hold this as a flex pick as we see Bliss go down the draft, and a very, very logical follow-up here on their 2-3.
Does make a lot of sense, right? And you know, obviously they've locked themselves in with the Vi. Really great diving champion, continue that aggression. They were phenomenal last week up against the Direwolves, right? With their ability to find the angles, to flank, to really target the backline and have an easy avenue into getting those kills, which also allowed Liv so much uptime to be in menace on that Jinx. Perhaps the reason why Chaeyoung's denied that one away from him, but either way, they've locked into Poppy nice and early. Obviously going to find itself in a pretty interesting spot, you say, right now in the meta of things with the amount of mobility to try and deny a lot of that. But what are they going to do going into the second half of the pick ban phase? They've denied away the Lissandra.
Yeah, the Lissandra ban looking to get rid of these utility mid laners. I mean, Annie probably follows on this list for the expected bans. Very curious to see where they choose to go. I like the Poppy. I like the idea of the Poppy. I like what it's going to provide for them as well in ways of denying Bliss and what Bliss can provide.
Yeah.
So I think it's a strong pick, but they need to solidify their composition around what this Poppy's going to do, because the Poppy can protect the Jinx. You still probably want an Enchanter to let the Jinx survive and prosper now, and to be its strongest, as you're getting rid of all of these dive threats already. So I would not be mad at something like the Lulu, but with that in mind, you've kind of given over the Aphelios Thresh as a potential combo, and you're letting Bliss ban away support picks to give an optimal bot lane for themselves.
Well, that's it. I think you're hitting the nail on the head in terms of Mammoth denying away some of these diving champions, whereas Bliss are looking to try and deny some of the protection from that dive, right, with the Tahm Kench being taken away from your son. Obviously, the Karzik, Sully did showcase us those two games, almost as if why not trying to force his hand, so they give us something a little bit more standard. Or if you are to go for something farm heavy like a like a Carfist, I can just punish you for that.
Shout out to Wynot for having the whole range of Bliss merch just sitting behind him now. Man loves a good shill for codes at his store. But
I'm surprised there is no neon flash behind him with his code, isn't there?
True. Big old neon sign saying his discount codes. Hecarim actually going to be the lock-in here. Now, Hecarim goes so well with movement speed based supports like Lulu's.
Yes.
Right? Enables your 2v2 to be so powerful. And that goes well with Jinx too, so I wouldn't be mad at seeing this from the side of Mammoth.
Yeah, Lulu is still up and available, whether or not they want to go down that path, or if Bliss were looking to try and deny that away on Nering, given that they've got the 5th and final pick before they hand things across. They're going to hover it for a second. Did see Arceus play that fresh before and was a bit of an aimbot with how clean those hooks were, so not too surprising. Now the big reveal is, do you want to be aggressive? That has been your son's real tell, I suppose, of his entire career coming into this one. But
yeah, we've known him as a Gage champion.
That's it.
Engage player, if there was any way to describe your son right now as he comes into this league, that's what you're expecting to see. And it's going to be no surprise, Skimmy, that that's what we're going to get. When we were talking about this matchup before today, we did summarize bot lane as Engage. So while I've been highlighting opportunities for enchanters, I'm saying that because we never see them here in OS. We're seeing them everywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Not seeing them here in OS just yet. And we're not going to this time either, as full compositions have come across. That Silas pick as well for Daystar basically solidifies his mid lane matchup. Wants to prove that he can carry. It's a pretty heavy damage lane with kill threat, particularly at 6. So very volatile. And that also means, as we saw from Bliss last week, why not ganking mid? Could be invaluable for setting up their game plan to succeed.
100%, and I think that's going to be a massive zoom-in focus of this game as to, how influential will the 2v2 be? That's something we've been critical of Darjeeling in the past, but linking up with Sully, they were looking, especially strong in that first game when the Nico was in play. But in this game here, right, you want to try and get that Hecarim online as quickly as possible. And with a top Poppy, Tien certainly has a handful of pocket picks. He's brought it back out to play again. We'll get to see how that one can fare up into the Cassante match.
Certainly one of his favorites, to say the least. Tien, not the first time he'll play the Poppy, won't be the last time he'll play the Poppy. We've seen him play carry builds in solo queue, runs around with his Divine Sunder. It could even be a Trinity Force now for all we know, right, with the changes to that item being absolutely insane. And just kind of, I guess overall with Mammoth's composition, they have got solid engage tools. They've got solid protection for the Jinx if they want to. But I think the primary purpose and focus of their team is going forwards and just taking out the enemy carries as fast as possible. Don't let the Silas play the game. Poppy's utility is going to be invaluable, and I think flank angles, probably the easiest way for them to win those team fights. And that kind of fits the bill of exactly how Mammoth have been kind of drafting and wanting to play anyway, right? That Kha'Zix is now a Hecarim who can get in the backline and dive and get that backline access. The Poppy, if he finds a carry, they can one-hit that carry very easily, and the Jinx just gets excited and is self-sufficient. But they have to get to that point, right, where they feel comfortable enough to be able to team fight. They're not falling behind early game.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing that we can say, Skimmy, about both of these teams, it's that action will happen in the early game.
And it has to, right? Because especially for Mammoth's comp, it's a comp built to pick apart individuals. A hook goes here, a stun lands there, a charm connects, and suddenly one champion is just removed instantly from that, front to back, which is been so common in these sort of ARAM standoffs that we sort of tend to see around the mid-game point. So I'm really curious to see how Team Bliss can sort of stamp their authority in this one, because they have definitely demonstrated, not just in last week, but in the past, that we have confidence. We will play aggressively. We aren't going to be too deterred if the early game doesn't really go our way. We know really what we're after. So how can Mammoth look to try and, recreate what worked so well in their win last week in a slightly different variation here into a team that is their mantra, that is their strategy?
And that's it, right? Mammoth, we saw them last week go 1-1 against Pentanet, who is a playoffs team, right? Plain and simple. They are a top 4 team. We've seen them go toe-to-toe with them. We saw them school Pentanet in Game 1. Now, Pentanet had a lot to say about their own draft and game strategy in that one, but in Game 2, it was like a different Mammoth showed up as well.
Well, that's why I raised the point, right? Because the second game, it was Pentanet being a lot more aggressive in the early game, really targeting that bot lane, really going to remove Cheon from the equation super early. And I think you raised the point about, well, you need to make sure that Dajong has some form of priority. And obviously the RE is going to be sort of that happy medium between priority but, facilitating.
You can kind of force priority with RE in the same way that Silas can, right? But generally speaking, forcing priority can hurt your health bar. But either way, we are going to be getting to this game very shortly. We'll look at mid lane because the simple way to explain this matchup is volatile. Depending on ignites, which is unlikely but certainly possible, things could swing wildly. And junglers getting involved is the story for me. As Arkia and Yersan go head-to-head, how do Wynot and Suli get involved in that mix?
That is the big question, and here we go, loading into the rift for week number 2 of the LCO, our first game of the night. And only the second time these two teams have ever met one another. Different rosters and different ideas, but the outcome is all still the same. We need to reach playoffs. Both teams, both organizations have built rosters to do just that.
And for me, the story of these drafts is low range. High damage, low range, bruises pretty much everywhere. Generally, to me, that means you look at setup, not just execution, right? Like maybe you want backline access. What if there's no backline, is what Bliss just said. It's an Aphelios and a Thresh Lantern, yes, but like aside from that, he can play back with purple weapon ults if you need. Jinx can do the same thing with the Zaps, and their goals are to be untouchable. You can see, of course, the cleanse from Limas versus the Ghost of Cheon. All about running away as fast as you possibly can. It's the 4v4 that meet in front that really are the difference maker here. And I think Silas against a low-range composition can go absolutely insane, but he has to contend with a lot of crowd control and mobility. So these are really tough compositions to execute if you're not setting up first yourself.
Straight away, then Yerson does go aggressive and jump straight in with the hook. Response from Arkia is have a bit of damage back your way as well. Difference, obviously, with the rune setup. It is going to be the Aftershock here coming out from the Nautilus. We've seen that a couple of times now. As opposed to the Glacial Organ being matched. Hook comes off CD, straight back in once again, flaying back and return the favor.
Yeah, supports are just going to half-health each other, engage on one another. A lot of it is kind of about that bush supremacy. If you're able to push Arkia out of the bush, it's a lot easier to play Nautilus into that matchup. He can't preempt you. But at the same time, AD carries sharing the top side of the lane means that they're not really going to interact with each other. They'll only interact when the supports that have hooks throw them at one another. So right now, Mammoth, they'll get control, yes, but realistically, it's not like there's going to be many minions. 1 minion lost from the looks of it in the way of last hits from Limas, but they'll be fine. It's just going to crash and bounce.
Yes, and also a whole bunch of posturing there, looking to try and guarantee yourself the better stance in that lane to guarantee all that CS. First peek into mid lane here is Wynot as they jump on through. Daystar going to not connect there, nor is Dajong, but still they're going to do a fair amount of damage.
Man.
As he's dropped down critically low.
So that was actually, bottom fight him as well.
Oh, actually, hook goes out and nearly caught Cheon, yeah.
So that was a critical error. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk.
You gotta be careful, hey, it's very angsty.
Dajong's mistake in mid was actually throwing the charm. It's one of those things that you watch back and it's like, he was out, the chains had missed. And because he threw the charm and it was dodged just by a slight move down from Wynot, he's able to go forwards. And something we didn't speak about is it's press the attack from this Vi. So the single target DPS from this Vi is really high for carry killing. And now suddenly Dajong has no health, no resources in mid lane. He's just objectively losing this 1v1. Is dead in mid lane. And you talk about you reap what you sow. That's a rough start.
It really is a rough start. And you can see Sully taking the inner line there, trying to say, well, Daystar, are you going to flash or are you not? That's going to force the TP out from Dajong. Obviously, very quick respawn back into the Swamp. But now it's the guessing game. Where has Daystar gone? Which bush is he feigning? And has he put enough time to actually deny himself?
And he's going to get the execute. Wow. So Daystar gets the solo kill in mid lane. Compliments of a gank from Wynot. We'll get the first blood. And look at the health of Dajong. It's just that simple, right? Throw all of your buttons out, hit the W, auto attack cancel. Clean kill. Set up prior from Why Not.
That's a brutal, check-in there. No summoners burnt. TP utilized by Dajong. 2 members' time committed to try and figure out where the Silas was, in fact, carving towards. And it just full circles back to your point. You just think Daystar's a little bit too strong, and certainly in the mix of things to prove it with a first blood like that.
And the reason that we do bring that up originally is the proof was in the game, right? If Dajong falls behind, Mammoth start to struggle to play out their composition, especially if it's about Chaeyoung being a carry. So, spotlight onto this Ahri, and a large spotlight. And Why Not
Very
maybe
careful.
has another go.
Biding his time. We can see that Sully is in the area. Why Not might just patiently wait here.
But look at this wave. It's devastating for Dajong. If he can't crash this wave, he has to walk up to force it to crash. And if he does, that's right in the waiting arms of Vi, who can just be immediately on top of him. Charm has to be saved for the Vi. Can't be used on the Silas. There's no winning in this situation.
Ah, so toxic. The chains. Oh, this time the flash interrupts the combo, and Sully is still in the area. But all he can do is gallop on through and say, hey, walk away. And even Aki is here.
The real win in this situation, more than anything else, is that Sully is still farming. 40 CS right now to the 24 of the Vi. Does actually put Sully in quite a comfortable position, at least in experience. Will get 6 very fast. We'll start to get some kill debt for himself as his top laners are going at it once again.
They certainly are. We've been seeing a lot more aggression coming out from these top laners to start off this second half of the split. It's been very exciting. We'd always joke about saying, look, they're trying to trade out grasp stacks and things usually simmer down a little bit, but we haven't been too amiss from finding ourselves some cheeky 1v1s resulting in kills.
It's always, I just want to get a grasp proc and then suddenly you die. You never really know. Live level 6 certainly is possible that he goes for the fight here now, but has to be careful.
And we start. Yurson going to start things off with that hook. Flash away from Arkeo. Comes across his Sully right now. Doesn't have any summoners, so he's just a sitting duck. A little bit too easy there for Limas. Welcomes the kill. Rooted in place. And you're farming up a storm, but not anymore.
Yeah, wasn't it? Just quite simple stuff here from Bliss. They have the read on the gank, so they have the read on the counter gank. And would you believe it, Skimmy? They just get that counter off, and all of the good work that Sully's put into this game farming is kind of undone with time that he spends dead and a Drake that can be taken with seemingly zero contest. Mid as well, top hard-pressured solo laners, not able to influence the state of this game whatsoever, except for Daystar. And so the fact that gank is successful for Bliss bodes really positively for this game.
Careful, Dashing might just fall victim to another kill. He certainly will in a 1v1. Daystar showcasing his class and his excellence. And if you wanted a carry performance on the Silas, then that is certainly what he's giving you here. 7 minutes in.
Exactly right. I mean, Skimmy, you want to talk about how good is Daystar? I think the proof's in the pudding here. But realistically, the biggest story for me is top fighting, actually.
Hold that point for 2 seconds. There is Tien is just dead as well. And it is just a mess across the entirety of Summoner's Rift right now. 4-0. Everywhere for Bliss is winning.
Yeah, these solo kills are just simply happening now in the 1v1s. The point that I was going to make, still very much true. You cannot afford to make a single mistake against Bliss. That's where we're at right now in this league, it feels like. Mammoth are no slouches. We saw them with potential to play really good League of Legends. But one little error, something as simple as throwing a charm at someone instead of running, and just like that, this game explodes. It hasn't reflected much in gold just yet, Skimmy, but the way this game feels, momentum-wise, seems so good for Bliss.
It might be a rare opportunity for them. Very good cleanse into the lantern, disengage away. Chen trying to breathe a bit of hope into the Mammoth fans. Nice and early here with a cheeky kill. It's not going to happen. Sully back on the farming train. One level up across onto his counterpart, and Why Not?
4 members mid. Right now, Why Not and Limas just ticked over to level 6 themselves as well. So if we see the fight, we see the collapse here. A lot of ultimates now find themselves available. Speaking of those ultimates, of course, Sully's level 7, Chaeyoung 6 himself. Hook hits.
Certainly does. Arkeo is the one in trouble right now. Drops the box, but might be put in one. It's a grave. He's dead. That is his coffin. And the rest of his team are forced to try and deal with it. Jumping across the wall with the charm. But a great flash away from Daystar. as he keeps himself in check.
Very nicely done from Mammoth. They get themselves in the right place faster, right? They're able to make the play happen themselves. They choose to go for it. The hook connects. They get the resets from Dajong, and he's able to force the flash from Daystar as well. Top once again going to be fighting. But to me, it really is just a battle of pressure up here. Elsewhere on the map, I mean, that's the first real big move that's super favorable for the side of Mammoth. But what does it get from Skinny? Because right now, Team Bliss are the ones that are hitting the Rift Herald. They're controlling top lane. They didn't get the shutdown onto Daystar, and so it is just the kill. Mind you, equalizes the gold. Can't complain getting money. Their comp scales.
And it goes in the right place, right? It does go into the hands of Cheon, which is certainly where you want it to be. Arkia actually going to square up again, and everything gets chucked at him. We're getting flashbacks to what we saw last week. If you can't get anybody in Bliss, target the support.
That's actually quite a mistake from Arkia, right? You can see that he's showing in mid lane. The Jinx is showing in bot wave. He doesn't know where they are. They are missing, and he chooses to walk the shortest path effectively with no real objective or anything up in that area of the map. So just a little lapse in judgment, perhaps. You know, the 1 second you stop thinking about Mammoth, here they are, but they've just done that in mid. So maybe even thought they were reset, but they were not. They were waiting.
Certainly helps things from ballooning out too far before the Herald can get summoned to try and really bridge a massive gold advantage here. Feels like we are much more in an even state than we were, what, 8 minutes ago, wondering, hang on.
Yeah.
Why is it 4-0, and why are we just finding solo kills everywhere?
So the big things here, right, is we spoke about how rough it has felt for these solo laners. Tian's still farming perfectly fine. Dajong actually farming decently well considering his lane state. And he is just an Ahri that can build Everfrost, worst case scenario, right? The issue with that, as we are, of course, unfortunately, into a pause, the issue with that is that they don't have much magic damage bar the Ahri. So if he is behind his 0-2, goes for this Everfrost utility build, where does that magic damage come from is the question. Because if you don't have magic damage and they can build one type of resistance, how do you get the Jinx resets? How do you win the team fight? Those are the big questions that I think we have to really highlight here for the Mammoth side. But right now, they are finding those angles. They're finding those opportunities. They're getting money in their pockets, hands in the right places. We can credit a lot of that to the fact that Yorosan has been there, right? Finding those angles.
Yeah, certainly hoping that it's going to be the more aggressive Ludens, Leandri's variant of the Ahri as opposed to the Everfrost. But, you know, if push comes to shove, it certainly is what it is. And you're just hoping it's not going to be one of those long, drawn-out, protracted games that goes to, you know, 4+ items where resistances become that much more of a nightmare to deal with.
Everfrost is fine, but the issue is when you go that build, you find yourself bottlenecked into this. Well, I'm against a Vi and a Thresh, so I need a Banshees. And now you've got Everfrost Banshees.
Oh, I'll get Zhonya's just in case.
Yeah, and now we're so late in that I need the Zhonya's because the enemy team keeps popping my Banshees and I need it for the Vial.
Yeah.
And now you've got 3 items, you're 30 minutes in, you're just doing 0 damage. So, just need to be careful with full build.
So it can be a bit of a pitfall to find yourself in as a bit of aggression takes place in the bot lane, we can see here. Potential gank from Sorley, who's just going to poke his head into lane, if nothing more, clear up some vision in the river, and remind them that, hey, those turret plates are starting to crumble.
All 4 summoner spells available for the bottom lane of Team Bliss, and you can see why not now here as well for the counter gank if absolutely required. But it seems like it is just the disengage and the reroute. Team Bliss!
Oh, look at that. It was clever. Flash lantern in. Doesn't actually land it, so the counter gank this time is actually favorable for Mammoth. Out goes the Moonlight Vigil, spread it with the blue weapon, but not enough to get a kill. And it is Team Bliss that start, but are limping away.
Yeah, very odd trade here from Bliss, something that they choose to go for themselves, and Mammoth, who had shown themselves to be in the area, would you believe it, was still in the area. They get the counter gank off. And I feel like I want to say the rare mechanical error from Arkia almost in his entirety, as the Flash Flame missed, the hook did nothing, and the ultimate was just a zone defense for an already bad play.
Now, why not has to pay the price for that one? Jumps into a fight that looked like a winning one from the very get-go there, but not to be realized the sort of potential they were hoping for. I mean, the lantern to start this off, they've got the jump.
Yeah, I mean, the flame misses, the hook hits an unstoppable target, so it doesn't do anything, and then the box comes down, but it's an afterthought, and why not goes down. We've seen a lot from Vi's that they can be quite squishy. A mistake means that usually you're in the backline by yourself, and you can be quite fragile. very reliant on the team to work with you. You're seeing what was possible if the play was good, right? A Herald to be summoned, a charge to go off, potentially a full turret. But now they give a kill over to Cheon, and instead it's just going to be the Herald summon for plates into a reset. So Bliss still finding themselves gold. You know, all things considered, we're highlighting the mistakes from Bliss. They're not losing. We've highlighted the mistakes from Mammoth. They've still found gold as required. It's just, where is that money going? Where is that experience going as well here? Lived, of course, starting to pull a little bit ahead, but those top laners haven't left their lane. They are clearing those waves.
Definitely have been rather landlocked up there in the top lane, despite the changes.
Look at the jungle CS difference, 7 to 9 right now.
Yeah.
Stuli has been farming out of his mind. And if you guys don't remember Stuli back when he was competing here in Oceania years ago, Karthus player, AP jungler player, carry jungle player, loves the full clears, loves the hard farm, plays for himself. Why not doesn't necessarily do that, right? Plays for the team. Can be a carry. You've seen the Kindred games from him, but you know, he's gone for the Vi, he's rushed the Black Cleaver, he's here to see Lemus go crazy, for Liv to go crazy in those team fights.
Not a champion we've seen very often, and I want to say that Talib's the one to ask him, would we be seeing a champion like the Hecarim come out to play? Well, certainly if you're going to take away the Kha'Zix, he's going to add his own flavour and showcase not everything in the competitive meta has to be what you say. In goes Liv, dragging him across the wall, trying to take Tien away from the safety and sanctuary of his own tier 1 tower. A knockback, a shove, but Daojun is there. He's going to charm himself in. Liv's forced to flash away. But on your head, there is nowhere to buffer. A dash, a shield, a potential dream, and a graceful handover. So Daojun gets his first of the game.
And look, Daojun may do no damage right now, but he's got plenty of mobility. He's hit the charm, he's hit the crowd control. They will get themselves the kill. Liv goes for this play not knowing if there'd be reinforcements. I guess not expecting Daojun to be there, but kind of goes for the play and gets bitten by it. No Drake up, no Herald to be considered. Just wanted the 1v1.
A crack at it. Maybe an isolation was a winning one. But unable to get it quickly enough before the cavalry did arrive. Back in the bot lane, really to really finish off what was their master plan, to dive bot, to summon Herald, to get the tower in that one shot. They're going to finally finish that one. That will be the very first tower of the game. Mammoth, though, are going to get a sniff in here to make it 2 from 2. And find their second objective with that Herald.
It is just about that objective control right now from Bliss that are really keeping them in the driver's seat until this point, right, where they're able to equalize that Herald, equalize those Drakes. We now find ourselves at this pretty definitive point in the game where both AD carries are quite fed. Both team compositions want their AD carry to be fed for sure. But it seems like there's a lot of kill threat in very specific places. The Rod of Ages build from Daystar is starting to ramp up, right? Starting to be a serious issue. Ahri not so much just yet, is more of that utility. Hecarim, however, is an issue. Trinity Force done. Building towards his second item is going to be absolutely a problem for Lemus. And so this game, now we've got our set pieces on the board, right? Our carries are big, but there's kill threat everywhere. This is where the prior conversation about setup, planning, objectives, execution all comes to fruition.
It certainly does. We've seen glimpses of it before in these small little skirmishes, but the combo is certainly there, and the items are now there to complement just that. The Everfrost is to be completed here by the Ahri. The Kraken Slayer actually going to be rushed by both these AD carries. One of the big changes here in 13-11. As we now see, a lot of people going and turning their sights towards Liv and saying you died once. How about we make it twice? Maybe bot lane does not exist. The rocket connects. He goes all out mode. He's running. And he gets away, and that's a lot of time purchased.
Yeah, really tough to actually get the kill there. I think Stuli had to try and ult into his E combo, but he was worried perhaps the all-out mode would be able to cancel that somehow and override it. But Poppy not being able to get the charge on the wall basically means that it's just going to be a Herald summoned and a bit of a zoning play by Mammoth. Keep in mind here that they did just use the Jinx ult, the Hecarim ult, and they are looking for this Drake contest. They're also split, Skimmy. It's risky.
It certainly is risky, and Tien may be caught out, completely isolated from the rest of his team. Daojun had to TP back to mid lane, which created that whole disparity in the very first place. Sully summoned the Herald, so he's obviously off to the flank, as we can see right now on the Gromp. And the Dragon has been started. The third one of this game is already down to 40%. Mammoth considering do we go in, but looking at Sully's positioning, that is a big fat no. On to the mid tower instead is what they're going to look to try and force themselves to get. Shane gets a few seconds to auto-attack weave in. Yostan finds the hook, jumps on in, depth charge, knocks them all up. There is that cease and desist. Right to Darshung's head, but he's got the charges. He can just dash away. Not what you need.
Ooh.
No damage to follow it up. And Bliss are hunting for a kill, but they can't find it.
Really good awareness from Yersan, I think, more than anything else, to not just find the initial hook, to find the initial engage, but to find the follow-up and force the flash from Lemus. Because while this fight kind of fizzles out into a bit of nothing, Mammoth control mid-wave. They already got the bot turret. It starts with a hook from Yersan, even though the charm misses. They both had the same idea, and they immediately go to blow up Daystar before a fight can start. That means no one's diving with Wino on the backline, and he has to flash away.
Yeah.
And the hook here finds his mark perfectly, and Lemus has to flash away from that one. So now we're looking at the next fight, what that means, right? A flashless Aphelios into a Nautilus ult, can't cleanse that. Big target goes onto the head of this Aphelios.
Certainly is on Vision. They are not deterred. They are walking with so much authority, so much confidence into this Rivet. Clearing Vision and replanting some of their own. And Arkia can only really settle for a distance across the water to figure out they're still there and they still want this mid lane.
Why not clearing Vision here is going to be pushed back by Sully as he dashes forwards. They will zone them out. The hook does connect, but the Vision is gone, and that's what they were after. Plenty of Huddy fruit around as well as Mammoth. You're seeing them go from coast to coast. That bot turret results in a top outer turret falling. They want to break mid for sure, but there's no more Rift Herald to do so. So it gets a little bit harder from here on out.
Was a 4v4 as two of the solo laners from either team decided to go and push opposite lanes. And it is to be now matched as Tierney is able to find that tier 1 in the top half of the map. Why not is here? Considering the idea of jumping into that one, but second guesses himself there and decides to peel away.
A fair consideration, but was spotted on a ward as well. He's just going to come back towards mid where they protect the President. As the rest of his team resets, Lima's going to be able to clear this wave. Getting closer to our second items now as well here, Skimmy, for both of these AD carries. Second one done for Chaeyon. Lima should be pretty much there himself. And I guess we're kind of just... We're poised for this one moment from here on, right? 2k gold, not enough to be game-breaking unless it's a fight on set item spike timings, right? If the Drake in 2 minutes means that there's an item advantage in anywhere particular, could be big, but otherwise not going to be too influential. But I do think all eyes now, you know, there is a Baron on the cards, but eyes go towards this next Drake and seeing who wants to actually contest it. Because I think both teams would be pretty content with trading the mid-outer turret for it instead. It's not going to be a game-defining dragon.
Doesn't feel that way right now. Both AD carries being even on items. It's certainly a case of saying, well, we're strong enough to actually make something happen here. But it's all about trying to find something before that Drake does spawn.
Darjung on a really nice flank here. If he finds Lemus, there's a cleanse but no flash.
No vision, they have no idea. So there it is. It's the flash forward, the charm across the wall, dashing away with the Gale Force to safety. They'll find themselves at least at tier 1. Daystar next on the chopping block, but knocks them all back. Why not on Lemus? That's what we need. There he is, cleanse out. Straight away, no wallbang for you. And turn it onto Why Not instead. Your son, he's starting to really impress me in this novel. There's 2-0-3 and putting in a lot of work in his debut.
Yeah, I mean, it's doing wonders for Mammoth, having a support with the confidence that he has. Darjung needs to be careful. Reinforcements are here.
The damage is really starting to amplify. It's hurting. In goes Liv. Looking to try and still keep them interested in the mid lane. Was that an overreach? Was that a mistake? It's feeling that right now. He's dashed away from the lance and he's so low, but just managed to hang on for dear life.
Just barely survives. These teams tiptoeing around the edges right now, looking for these opportunities. Mammoth, I think the happiest when all is said and done from that skirmish. They'll break the tower. They'll get the kill onto Why Not as well. And they will push Lemus back and have no summoner spells remaining. Really nice hook from Arkia to buffer with the Naut hook himself. So neither of them did anything, but the damage was done. The tower was broken, and Tian's able to come in here. Put Lemus next to a wall, but the cleanse will keep him alive. But what's Why Not going to do? He can't cleanse himself out from all of the damage that goes down. Darjung can just back away here. Chooses just to go a little bit too far and ends up forcing this secondary trade that Lived goes forwards on, who again didn't need to go forwards here, but gets hit by all of these abilities. And you know what I'm kind of saying here, this running narrative. Yes, Liv survives and it's okay. Yes, Darjung survives. The exact same conversation can be had, but we're really pushing our limits on what's possible and seeing how we get punished.
Certainly our flashes have been burnt aplenty. It is worth noting that Lemus' flash does come back up in about the next 5 seconds. So he'll at least be grateful for that, knowing that this Drake fight is what they essentially were posturing for. Here's the angle, and you're looking to see where Tien decides to go for. Ake is the target, jumps straight in with the box, but deleted. Cheon now, 3 kills to his name. He's starting to get strong, he's starting to find resets, and as a team built around him to find those picks, to get those kills, to forget about the Dragon. Let's go Baron.
Yeah, it's no longer a fight around the Drake. Mammoth got the picks that they are hunting for, and suddenly we're looking at a Drake for Baron trade at best. Tien even potentially feeling confident enough to walk in there and stop that one from being a trade. He's going to walk in, he's going to see if a why not. The question is, how many people is he willing to look at in the eyes and say, I can stop you? Well, how about why not ults instead?
Yeah, well, ult for ult, put that one on reset real quickly and say, let's buy as much time. Can we try and go cross map? It's not to be the case. The comms have already gone out here. There will simply be that objective trade.
And now Mammoth well and truly in the driver's seat. Yes, they're dealing with a potential Ocean Soul in the hands of Liv and you know the rest of Team Bliss, but this fight, most importantly here, you watch how this starts off one more time. Cheon pretty much freely hitting through a lot of this. Dajong finds his angle because Tien and Sully are able to body them all out. And it is Tien who finds the initial push, and Arkia is just like butter, just melts. Tien's dead as we come back. You compliment a man.
You do.
You compliment a man at all.
The caster curse is too real down under, I tell you that much.
I think we should just do a Twitch vote for who do we compliment next instead. Can't cast anyone up in League of Legends anymore.
Dream Playoffs Week is a dangerous one, that one. Might get the most engagements we've had online since.
Everyone just messages us saying, please call my team trash.
Yeah.
Please say that they can't win. Well, that hurts, Skimmy, because that also stems a lot of the flow of this Baron buff. Tien going down, no teleport as well in his pockets means one of the side lanes has less threat. Fight happening at the turret, but Daystar.
Yeah, Darshan playing a dice game. Nice sidestep though on the chain's not going to be full victim to that
Conqueror
combo
proc.
just yet, but still has to feel a little bit of protection.
Oh
Look
my
how many
God,
dashes there are
Daystar.
between the two of them. They are literally traveling through the space and time.
He's just broke his ankles. This is into a Baron buff, by the way. They have just got a pick after a pick, and they've broken the mid lane outer turret. Stemmed the flow, actually find an advantage somehow in this situation. Mammoth overall are sitting at 100 gold advantage from this Baron buff presently. Not enough to do anything for them.
Down, what, 5k I want to say overall before that play really came to fruition. You've completely defeated the formation of that 5-man Wrecking Ball with the Baron buff to say, okay, that Baron actually was worthwhile.
And suffice to say, we have our hands on a Cheon game. When it comes to the gold value right now, Cheon is everything for Mammoth. Of course, has got the team kind of just behind him, but Lemus and Daystar, the carries of the side of Bliss, certainly up there among the ranks and the carries. The damage across the board is going to be there. You saw what Daystar is capable of. How good is he on this Sylas? It was like an anime battle. There's too many dashes going everywhere. Try and keep up with that one. Observers losing their minds.
You think he's shorter, that's it. There's no more. And they just kept moving. From one turret to the second.
Also why Sylas is so good into Ahri, because in that 1v1 as well, you are Ahri with 5 dashes, not 3.
No need to worry about those resets, that's for sure. Speaking of, the itemization that we potentially could have seen, the Banshee's Veil isn't to be the case here. It is to be the Shadow Flame with the Grievous Wounds intact as well. Wants to be a lot stronger as opposed to feeling like a glorified support.
Lived a little bit out of position here if he gets spotted. Look at Sully, they've got their eyes on him.
Nothing for Liv right now, who goes unstoppable for just a second. 2 bruises on his head, locking him in place. Jumping across the wall, going all out. Mid lane, though, that's where you need to be careful. And dashing away is Darjun, but once again, Daystar has got him locked in his sights. It's like a bounty is on his head. Why not is still alive. Tell me how, Rusty, because Daystar is too. They're both so low, but unable to find that reset, unable to get that kill until they jump in with the Gale Falls. And he's found on Lemus of all people. That's what you want. That's what you need. Forget the Baron. Finally, let's break open this base.
And Sully was preoccupied with the tank in top lane, but finally comes back to the skirmish, comes back to the play, and they're able to net themselves a pick back in return. That was probably half a second away from Lemus being the one to get a pick there as well, if not just trading his life at the very least. They just get in time before the ultimate can bring down the green weapon, which finds his target. Very nicely done from Mammoth, who again, 4-0-3. And 2-0-4 is the scoreline of their bot lane. They are the carries right now, and this support Hecarim that we're seeing still doing damage. But in this skirmish, he's just keeping Lived busy. The flank is not allowed to happen for Bliss. And yes, this is a 4v3. As it breaks out, the Bliss choose to go for, which makes a lot of sense. Hit the ult straight onto Dajong, follow up, but ultimately this Ahri has 3 dashes and the ability to cover so much distance that they cannot quite get there for the rest of Bliss to join that fight, which means that Chaeyoung was able to get those attacks off and was able to flash the Thresh hook. Cannot hit a hook right now, unfortunately. And you see how close this is to perhaps that extra auto attack. But just like that, the reinforcements came through, right? That Liv that they pushed out of the fight, they came back and we're back.
We certainly are. Jumping in with the Onslaught of Shadows, looking to try and put everybody to sleep, put them feared and stunned and absolutely destroyed. In jumps Liv, looking to try and go unstoppable, looking to try and be a bit of a clutch factor out of the stasis, and down Angelita Chan finally has been shut down. And of course it had to be Daystar. Superstar Daystar brings Bliss back.
And we said this earlier, right? No flash on Lemus. Well, now it's no flash on Chaeyoung. The target goes on his head and they find their mark. Huge damage done by Lemus in the fight, but also Daystar finding his targets. Carry after carry drops. And just like that, any kind of advantage Mammoth have instantly gone again. It just continues to happen. You see so much good work from Mammoth. You watch the second fight that breaks out and suddenly it goes awry. And they are the ones that choose to fight this. They look at Daystar, they make their play, but the Vi gets into the backline, and just like that, the combo from Lived and Why Not, it's too difficult for Chaeyoung to stay alive, right? And they're never killing Sylas in time if the Jinx isn't auto-attacking. It's just that simple. Just like we said in Draft Skimmy, which carry can attack more successfully probably decides the outcome of the fight.
That certainly does, but they've always been so close, and once again you saw Arkia limp away, and it's always those small margins. That one reset could have been enough to buy yourself enough time to gather enough distance away to force Bliss to overcommit themselves and salvage something a little bit extra from that fight. But it's beside the point now, because Bliss are 30 minutes in. They're getting closer and closer to evening out that gold deficit, and now they've got themselves an Ocean Soul.
So the really big pieces of information here is both AD carries, no flashes. Daystar, no flashes. Well, no one on Bliss has one, to be clear. Dajong has got one himself, but the big thing for me is while both carries have no flash, there is a stopwatch there for Lemus, right? There is the cleanse, there is something to keep him alive. Hook connects.
That was a little bit too clean there. Jorson tries to buffer the hook away to safety. Not going to be the case. Look at the angles, flanked and deleted. There's a shot there that Why Not certainly wanted for himself. A little bit of retribution as Liv drags Chaeyoung right back into his jungle and says, that's where you're going to stay. You have been devoured.
And it is Bliss that find the angles. It's Bliss that find the hook. And it's Yersan that ultimately falls his first death of this game. But a very impactful one is Dajong.
Has he got away? This time he has. Probably deserves it after the countless times he tried to disengage away from Daystar.
Yes, he does deserve to live, but the Baron will fall. Bliss back in the driver's seat. Ocean Soul in their pocket, so these long, protracted, drawn-out trades, something that's quite favorable for them, especially into the many melee matchups. Fantastic hook. Catches him mid-hook to the wall to cover distance. Just hard reads the timings. And also Chaeyoung just caught in mid lane, right? The positioning of this fight was never something that Mammoth were intending to have. It was something that was forced upon them. And so caught very much in a poor position, flashless, and just dealing with that vial.
Second Baron buff, and it goes the way of Bliss. And now, for sure, outright, they do have that gold lead back in their hands. The question becomes now, how much can they get done with it? Because the very first one, as you already mentioned for Mammoth, was picked apart in these side lanes. How will Bliss set up? What will they have their sights set on? And how passive will they play this one out, given that the Elder is up in 3 minutes?
And you can't afford to make a mistake into a Jinx composition. Could get resets, could actually run you down, right? You can't afford to miss position into an Ahri and a Nautilus. And you can't afford to miss position with a Poppy ultimate. You make a single mistake and 3 people get pushed away from that ult, suddenly it's a really good fight for Mammoth. But for now, we see Bliss start to press forwards and get their vision down, look for the setup themselves. Better setup wins. Better execution as a result of that setup will win.
Both teams going to mirror each other with a 4-1 split here, completely forgetting about the top lane. Having their sights firmly fixated on the mid lane. And duking it out here in the bot lane, where you'd guarantee that Daystar is going to take that fight every day of the week. And certainly has confidence to do so. 8-2, an absolute weapon unleashed in this game one. And Darjang has 40 long seconds to ponder where it all went wrong.
And Mammoth have put up such a good fight in this game, but it definitely starts to feel like it's running away from them now. No one to contest Daystar, as he basically two-hits a tower. Hooks being thrown out left, right, and center. Opportunities starting to present themselves, and Mammoth backs against the wall with no real winning situation here. They are struggling.
That's all you needed, that initial pick, break the ranks and force your way inside this base. They found 2 inhibitors. It's a successful Baron. That is an understatement. And they've got themselves in such a prime position to try and disengage away, unless Mammoth have something to say. They're going to try, but even just walking at Daystar, intimidating.
Ocean Soul, Zone is Hourglass, Rod of Age's health as well. He's quite tanky. And I mean, I like the idea from Tan. He recognizes an angle, but the rest of his team just can't really get there. Bliss going to continue to push forwards. Looking at this top lane in the turret, should be gone, should be uncontested. Darjang needs to be careful. The issue here for Mammoth is where do you draw the line, and it probably has to be this third inhibitor, and it probably has to be before the supers start to crash, so your timing is now or never.
That certainly feels to be the case. 10 seconds left in this Baron before Bliss might get that checkmate position of pushing, basing, and setting up for the Elder. Time is ticking away. It is crucial. A resource you need to utilize right now, but they're biding their time. And they're hoping that Team Bliss perhaps overextend.
And they just can't find an angle, right? Lima's sitting behind all of his tanks. He's got Aki and Lived in front of him at all moments. Why not ready to ult anyone like Darjang who finds a flank? And the supers start to crash now. Daystar, a serious threat.
In come the supers, patiently were they waiting, but Lived has sacrificed himself to the Lamb. He's gone in, what was that? Out goes the Moonlight Vigil, dropping him ever so low, and the supers on their own have said, we've got a mission and then to destroy this base. If you played a dancing game, it's an elegant game of chess, but your base will just crumble. You've got to do something.
Yeah, special shout out here though to Mammoth as a whole. Sully, of course, just going to be running out as fast as he can. The eyes are set on this Elder Dragon up in 10 seconds. It was a pick onto Lived, followed by 2 control wards placed onto the Lantern to get him to safety, so to give him no way out. And just like that, they get the pick that they're after. 25 seconds, the teleport will be there from the Cassante. Mammoth, time's running low. Let's see how much they can get here.
Mammoth the ones to start up this Elder Drake. They instantly turn their attention on towards the Silas. Goes golden, buys time. Elder still engaged. TP's coming on through. Sully jumps in on his own and deleted. They have no smite. Now it's not a fair fight. There's a backline flank from a respawning Cassandra to say, where are you going?
All the
if
vial.
we're fighting, I'm shoving in the minion wave. Why not stand his target? He's forcing them back. That's a 3-man depth charge stolen away there by the Silas. And he's godlike, and for good reason too. But Chayan is trying to kite his absolute heart out, but the rest of his team has crumbled around him. Doesn't matter if you can see how much damage he's doing, because he's got no team to stand and assist.
And that's basically it here. Team Bliss in game number 1 will be able to wrap this one up. Mammoth no way out. In fact, being basically ran away from this Cassante out of their base gimme. Solid ending to a very back and forth game.
Certainly was. 36 minutes into this one, you made a question, or I suppose brought up a conversation about what would it do when you look at itemization. If it were to be, you don't have enough AP damage. We're certainly getting to that point where 4 or 5 items are cresting on late game Elder Drakes into Barons, but ultimately, I really think you look at the fact that Silas can get that far ahead, and it can perhaps just simply stem from the fact that you've chucked out a rogue chump where you're out for free, has that sort of aftermath rolling effect. Suddenly you're finding yourself gank after gank into, I can't actually deal with this guy anymore, but you need to keep your formation right. You need to make sure that you are in that 1-for-1, and yeah, Daystar really ran away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to take it all the way back to the start, right? Because we were talking about this before we got into game 1 of what would happen in this mid matchup, like, you know, what champions were going to be picked, who was going to happen, and I was like, all right, this kind of going to be over. Like, Team Bliss getting double solo kill there in mid. Max, I was a little bit worried from that point of view because lanes went fantastic for Bliss.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And we talked earlier about what Mammoth were going to do in terms of that mid lane matchup. Ahri into Silas is not one of those neutralizing matchups. In fact, giving Silas arguably one of his best ultimates that he can get in that mid lane in Daystar. I mean, out of all the picks, this is probably the one you'd be most scared of going against. So Darjang, to me, was someone who opted into this and really just got it handed to him. We know that Daystar is able to take over games. That's exactly what he did here.
And then outside of that, as we see some of these replays happening, a lot of team fights, Mammoth were just able to position themselves beautifully. Like, I was very impressed with what happened on, whether it's Mammoth's side or Bliss's side with their supports, how they initiated certain things, as well as Tuli really impressed me too with the way that he was able to get to team fights right on time, really min-maxing what he was doing around the map.
To me, Arkia actually looked quite shaky to start this game off, getting caught out not only in rotations, but also in team fights. There was a team fight that led to a Baron where he was basically just positioned really far up mid lane for no reason, ended up getting caught and dying. But after that, it really turned into Bliss realizing, okay, we need to get on top of Jinx and we need to kill her. And we saw a couple fights in a row, Mammoth just weren't able to lay the CC correctly to get on top of members like Daystar and blow him up. Zhonya's came through and then Cheon's left alone in this backline. And once Jinx dies in this comp, no one else does damage.
We can see how much damage was dealt by that Jinx there. 31.5k. Absolutely flawless damage when it comes to the chart. And really hits home what you were just saying, Max. Like, if she's not in the fight, if she isn't present, who else is doing something on the side of Mammoth? Ari obviously having some of her numbers up there too, as well as Poppy.
Yeah, I mean, tough game for Dajang, right?
Yeah.
To put it simply, it started really tough. It was kind of, this comes before draft. Why Not was ganking mid in their last series as well, and just setting up Daystar to succeed. So no surprises that he goes back towards that one. But the punish from like the smallest errors was just so incredibly high. There was no way back in for him. Yet Mammoth found these angles, right? And they kind of turned this impossible situation into actually winning. Not just winnable, but actually winning.
I thought I was going to be sitting in this catch being like, yo, that's it. We've broken like the blue side win streak. Like, I was like riding up this spiel, that story. And then, yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of that team fight, Max, that you wanted to talk more about, of the Jinx being picked off, some of the rougher positioning from the side of Mammoth that just led it to then be really run over by the side of Bliss.
Yeah, and look, Mammoth had the right idea in terms of how they were playing team fights, and it did work for them to their credit in earlier team fights where they'd have, Poppy flash stunning into the wall, a charm, a hook, all these things being laid on top. There was just that one later fight where the charm comes out 0.2 seconds late or something, and he's not able to get the CC off. I do believe it might be this one here, as we see TN flashes forwards. The knock-up comes through, Fear as well, but the charm just enough. Thank you to the production team. That's absolutely perfect. Exactly what I wanted to highlight. That Daystar's able to get his Onyas off, and then look at Cheon in the back. He's got Lived on him, he's got Why Not on him, and there's nothing to protect him. When we were looking at this draft earlier on, we were like, okay, they didn't go for an enchanter like you guys were calling out, like
I've
something
said it
like
like
a
12
Lulu.
times in draft.
They didn't go for that, so the second Jinx gets engaged upon in the backline, she is just going to die, and that's what happened towards these later fights.
It is really unfortunate, but it does give me hope that, when the sides do swap on that second game in this best of two, that there's a lot of light given to Mammoth. Like, there's a lot of strong points given.
For sure. I mean, I think we looked at the Dare fan vote. I think it was like 90% in favor of Bliss actually coming out with the win on this one. So
Yeah,
it's pretty lopsided in that regard. But I mean, you can look at that game and say they were down so bad in first 8 minutes? Down 4-0, just solo kills galore, absolutely smashed in the mid lane. You're thinking, what on earth is going on here? But I think Cheon's probably the happiest of them all.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, there's all these fires around the map, and I'm like, that's cool, guys. I'll just scale and pray. And he did obviously a phenomenal job at that. But just a few of those late game fights, you're thinking, yeah, just needed that one reset. So I think you can be quietly optimistic, given that blue side is just the best side in the game. And look how much they get them a run for their money on the red side.
And as well, I want to shout out Tien. Obviously, he did get solo killed, but that was more of just I think he kind of got bored playing against Cassandra. It does happen, right? But I think he was up like 20-something CS, able to actually beat down Lived, force some resets, get some waves crashing and some plates. And I think that, he, and Poppy as well is a sort of TN-centric pick. It's not very meta at the moment, but he is definitely willing to bring that out. So that's another player I'm looking forward to in terms of his laning ability.
Would you say it was just the team fights in the later stages that kind of led Mammoth to this loss, Max? Like, obviously, props to Bliss being able to capitalize it, but, was there anything that could have changed? And you're like, hey, we could be seeing a different thing outside of how the fights were taken.
Yeah, I think their first Baron usage was quite poor. We saw off the back of that, somehow Mammoth were just losing their mid turret and Daejong was getting solo killed. And as soon as that happens, right, like with a comp like this, when your Jinx is ahead, you need to make sure she stays ahead and really ahead of the curve so you're able to push the tempo. But those things just slow down the game so much, and then you have to worry about Daejong in the side lane pushing, your mid lane's losing, so then what do you really do? And, they really snowballed and stopped Mammoth in their tracks, and then Bliss were able to capitalize.
And I think there was one more replay you wanted to have a look at as well. Was that another team fight?
Yeah, this was another team fight that will pop up here. So we can see here, it starts off with Yersan. And another thing that I want to emphasize here is look at Cheon's positioning. This is another fight where he's not able to play the front to back that Jinx wants. We can see that Liv gets on top of him straight away. And when it's a Cassandra 1v1 versus Jinx, it's not even a 1v1 because Vi's coming in there as well. it's just unplayable, right? So with Mammoth's comp, they really need to play that straight front to back where they're playing off a charm, playing off a hook, and getting that reset. When they're not able to do that, it's just really hard for them to find wins.
Yeah, let's chat about the Vi as well, because you mentioned her in that fight a little bit, but I want to talk about what she's goals, like what the goal is for Vi earlier in the start of the game as a champion. But if she's supposed to have this volatility that we saw, why not have a bit? Because while she was able to get those pickoffs, it was then the next time they tried to gank, Vi just didn't exist. She exploded. In some of the team fights, it was the same thing. So is that the goal of Vi? Is that how she should be played when it comes to a jungling champ?
Vi can be super volatile for a lot of reasons. One of them is that she's not a tank, right? She tends to build Black Cleaver, she has health, but is more about having your team do damage with you. So if the Vi is 0 and 10, something has gone wrong. And that is usually either you've gone too early or your team's not on the same page as you.
All right.
But a good game, like a perfect Vi game, you're not 0-10, you're 10-0, or you have 10 assists. But in this game, you saw a lot of examples of this, right? They had a very good high damage composition in melee range. If the Vi goes too early, there's a Nautilus hook, there's a Nautilus ult, you're locked down and you're just stuck. So I think they punished really well, and that was the one thing Mammoth, I think, did quite nicely. There was a lot of the fights Mammoth were taking themselves where they weren't really finding as much success if it wasn't Yersan going first himself.
So weirdly enough, the key for Mammoth's success is Yersan or the other team engages on you.
Yeah, basically, pretty much. But they, like Rusty said, there were a lot of diving options that came with Vi this game, right? Hecarim ult, Silas, Cassante, Lived found a lot of flanks this game, able to make Cheon's life a living hell. So definitely really well played by Bliss, playing around Vi, and this is a staple pick for them. Like, why not? Has shown that he's playing these he's very comfortable in these engaged champions. So I'm willing to bet that they'll be playing it way more this split.
If you were in this series, Max, are there any champs you'd want to permaban against them?
Against Bliss?
Yeah, either or. Either team. You just like, man, you just lock it in, get rid of it, get it
Yeah,
out of there.
It has to be Cassante.
And this is the thing. It's like Cassante always feels like this champion that's so OP, but teams aren't willing to drop other bans for it, right? And then it comes out, wins lane. I mean, this game it didn't win lane, but it's just such a menace late game. So the question to me is like, what are you willing to drop? We know that obviously Mammoth are heading towards the blue side for their next game, so will they be first picking it? Will they just ban it and get rid of it as well? Because blue is a bit more flexible with what you can ban.
But Cassandra definitely hits up there. You got to kind of question whether you let it through or not. And I mean, do you guys let it through in your solo queue games, or is he a permaban champ for you? Because from the fans, you guys, we asked you the question, what champion do you permaban? If you have an answer for that one, if you want to tell us who you do, you can tweet at us using hashtag LCO. And we've got Da, he said, I permaban Olaf. Permaban Olaf. At Tron the Bomb got me absolutely traumatized.
Valid.
Valid.
When Tron picks Olaf and starts running at you, you probably turn around and scream.
You just immediately disconnect.
Just
You're
accept
like,
reality, Alto 4 gaming.
I mean, I'm just saving myself 20
It
minutes
is tough because, like, when Tron does play the Olaf, you know, he's just like, it's Troning time. And he just, like, Trons all over the show and just kills you all. And you're like, oh.
He Trons everywhere all the time.
I guess we just got Troned.
Yep. All right, we got someone else as well. We'll
You just
see.
wanted to say that.
I really did.
Yeah,
just
you
wanted
did.
to say that.
We did. Kha'Zix is Deadly G's permaban.
Very good ban right now.
Yeah.
I think that prior to the item changes, it was an emotional ban, but now it's a very good ban.
One of the few logical permabans. I think everyone else's, I said everyone except Max's was an emotional permaban.
I think Max's was also emotional.
It's very emotional. I think everyone's been traumatized by a pick, like in a couple solo queue games.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm not playing it.
Yeah. Or you even see it and it kind of like, I've had the opposite where I've seen it work really well in pro, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I could give it a go. I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna ban it, so I like take that off the cards for myself.
So you're banning it for yourself, so you don't play it.
Yeah,
Right,
there's like 2 types of permabans.
The
You're gonna
reverse.
you're gonna restrain
I have no
yourself.
discipline.
I'm not going to pick this. I'm not going to pick this.
Ban.
No, that's fair. I ban Yasuo with solo queue, so my mid laner doesn't pick it.
Yeah, good.
I was gonna say, so it doesn't have to be just you, but like maybe your team.
Yeah.
Sure.
Safety bans.
Yeah, that's right. It's the big pick people fall for.
Good on you, Scott. Yep, love this one.
Tank Riven. I mean, Cassante.
Support player mindset. Ban away the issue for your AD carry.
Yeah.
I respect that.
It's
You're
just
just trying
so,
to protect the win condition.
and it's so hard to play against. Like, the thing about Cassante is the fact that he is so tanky when he's trying to find flanks, so you can't just find him and one-shot him. But then once he gets on your AD carry, he blows them up. It's like really, what do you actually do against it unless you have like those real pill supports? So this game was perfect example of that where Cheon was just 1v1 against him and nothing he could do.
Yeah, well, maybe they could take a page out of that book or our book or any book of the permaban champs that we just saw there. Again, you guys can use hashtag LCO and tell us who your permaban champs are. But for now, we do have our second game in this best of 2 up against Team Bliss and Mammoth after this break.
There is something to keep him alive.
Oh,
Hook connects.
that was a little bit too clean there. Yorsman tries to buckle the hook away to safety. Not going to be the case. Look at the angles, flanked and deleted. There's a shot there, not why not, certainly wanted for himself. A little bit of retribution as Liv drags Cheon right back into his jungle and says, that's where you're going to stay. You have been devoured.
You know that I'm down. You know now I'm down. Hey! Homies in the front, bass in the back. Ain't no time, you know where it's at. When you finish one task, it's on to the next. Line 'em up, knock 'em down. I ain't giving in or giving up, but I will give my all when I get the call. Line 'em up, I knock 'em down. A tunnel vision's got me on a mission. All I do is ball. Ball hard and finesse has gotta be success. The other option is to fall. I'm about to ruin that, cause I don't plan on doing that. I take a stand, I'm standing tall. I was raised like that. We ain't the same like that. OGs gave me game. I gave the game right back. Had to show it to the youth. Told them go and live their truth. You can be who you wanna be. Look at me, I'm living proof. Game time, frame of mind, strictly on the grind, hustle to the end. Pay the cost, be a boss. I ain't about a loss, I'm about a win. Yeah, I'm on to the next. Hit it, quit it, hit it, quit it. Hit it, quit it, hit it, quit it. Yeah. Hit it and quit it, I'm on to the next. You cannot stop me when I'm at my best. Pocket of vibes and it comes at a time when I stayed on the grind and came up with a flex. Microphone backer, so you better step up, cause you playing checkers when I'm playing chess. Gotta move fast, so I stay on my task. If you ask if I'm legend, the answer is yes. Cause I move like that. You cannot do like that. Don't call me by my government, cause we ain't cool like that. Had to show it to the crew. Told them go and live it true. You can be who you wanna be. Look at me, I'm living proof. Game time, frame of mind, strictly on the grind, hustle to the end. Yeah. Yeah. Pay the cost, be a boss. I ain't about a loss, I'm about to win. Yeah. I'm on to the next. Hit it, quit it, hit it, quit it. Hit it, quit it, hit it, quit it. Yeah.
Attention all newcomers. This is not a game. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, you feel me? This is life. Let's get it. We put blood, sweat, and tears into this. So look, I push that weight to get that dough, but I don't break cause I've been broke. If ain't no pain, then ain't no growth. To keep it 100, I came in to run it and bet if I had to, I'd do it again. It ain't no race if I don't win. In spite of the odds, I go get it like I'm a boss. If they step to me, we toss.
He hooks himself back in. They want it. Kiffy's not able. It's a pentakill. Second, they'll find a second. Chippy is on an absolute tear right now.
Welcome back to the LCO, everybody. It is me, your host, Nat T. I know I look a little bit different. I did my makeup in a different way during this segment, but you know that was a great game. I want to throw to my analyst over here to break it down. So take it away, Max.
Yeah, I reckon they just got to make sure Nico isn't banned and pick it, and that's how you win on blue side now. Mammoth win, what up?
This was her idea, by the way. Just before we get any further, this was Nat's idea.
I thought you were going to ask me some,
Hey!
like, super... I love it. I thought you were going to ask me some super extravagant, like, analyst
I should
question
have.
that only, like, the 1% top echelons
There
of,
is
like,
still
league
space to
players.
ask that question
I should have
now.
asked you. All right,
Yeah.
now I'll give you a freebie.
Okay, all right.
What was the change they made to Amumu on patch 13.11?
His damage over time on his W went from 10 to 7.
Bang.
That was a freebie. Now a hard question.
Bang.
Now a hard question.
What up? Patch 13.11. Yeah, I read that back to back.
She's good.
Front to cover.
I read that to
Front to
Fleet too.
cover. So I literally opened it.
That's
Yeah,
a banger.
let's
It's
go.
closed. Nice blurb. Yep, love that.
Yeah, synopsis, top
Awesome,
notch.
mate.
Yeah, I loved those little pictures of those champions. Looked gorgeous.
Sounds like my uni books. Yeah, mate, studied for it. Beautiful. Yeah, let's go.
And that's how Skimmy got his degree.
Yeah, mate.
And you too can get a degree in League of Legends if you put in your Dare fan vote all the way in. Max, do you want to show them where?
I think it might be. Oh, that doesn't even. Right
Oh,
there.
look at
Right
that.
there. I couldn't think of a better pointer than and where to show you for that Dare fan vote over there. And you guys can put in who you think is going to be winning this game number 2 in our best of 2, because Mammoth put up a phenomenal fight in game 1. Ultimately did unfortunately lose it, but gives me a lot of hope that this will be your prediction, Max and Skimmy, of being a 1-1.
Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, you just look at the fact that they gave them such a good run for their money, given how the early game went so categorically wrong. I think you're looking to try and give, I'm not sure really what you can give Dajong, but some kind of agency to be, it's not like protected, but you just need to not fall victim to the fact of like, I'm going to get ganked, I'm going to receive
They
attention.
banned utility mid laners and gave him a carry mid laner. They could
Well-
probably leave them up.
I think,
No,
yeah.
I don't know if that one's it though, Rusty.
I think we let Daystar play a carry that beats me. I think that's the strategy here, guys.
Yes.
I think, yeah, you just like, you go back to the point of like, you need to ban the Cassante, but I'm expecting him to leave the Nico open, take the gamble and say, is Nico going to be left open? And
Well,
if you
now
don't,
that's interesting.
then we're going to ban Cassante. Cool, let's go.
Yeah,
Cool.
well, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
look, that's a gamble.
Yeah.
We can theory craft. I don't really care what we have to say though,
Yeah.
because Champ Select's ready.
Making my own side effects.
That was
Side
actually, that
effects?
wasn't bad. That worked.
Sound effects.
Making my own side effects from front to
Look
cover.
at that, bro. Go
Let's
next.
get into draft, please.
That was the point I'm trying to make. Okay, so between me and having a stroke and trying to basically say what I'm saying, Nico did in fact get
Yeah,
banned.
yeah, yeah.
Cassante did in fact get locked in.
Yep.
Blue side is OP. Mammoth
Yep.
are happy.
Yep.
Go next.
Yeah. So adaptations in the draft so far. Milio and Nico are banned on red side. Maokai stays for Team Bliss.
Yes.
For Mammoth on blue side, they ban the Jinx this time. They ban the Scion still, and it's them that get rid of the Gragas instead of Bliss. So that one flex is gone. Mammoth picked the Cassante, right? This is kind of exactly what we were saying pre this draft of things that we wanted to see from Mammoth. Cassante can't be given to Bliss. The question is, how do Bliss adapt to this situation, right? Because we know how flexible they are and how deep they are with their champion pool. Perfect example of this is they will slam a Renekton 2, and now they have the possibility of Elise jungle, which they do play.
They do.
The LPL has been playing Diana jungle, so AP champions are there and very much a prevalent factor. And I have no doubt that Wynot's very content picking those and can do wonders into Mammoth, regardless of what their composition is going to be. We've seen Bliss win with it no matter what.
Certainly have, and it sort of begs the question as to really what is the Mammoth response to that. If they're sort of being led down that road of predictability, if you will, what is the response? Well, the Jinx being banned away to make sure, hey, you are going to lock, in fact, the Aphelios. Zeri still is Omega broken. We want to guarantee that one if Cheon's form carries over from game 1 to 2. You're going to be a little bit more self-sufficient regardless of whether you you had that enchanted there to back you up or not. The Ori's being hovered, and it is going to be confirmed again. Wants to run it back. Snap lock in there from Daystar as to, well, could it just be a Sylas run back?
The immediate hover, of course, you've got the options of Diana. You saw the Lissandra ban as well in the last draft. So there's these utility champions that can exist that can be really nice for setup. Are they mission critical for Bliss is the question, right? Because Renekton tends to be played towards. Aphelios can be played towards really easily for gank setup with the purple weapon. Your mid laner doesn't have to be some kind of crazy gank setup champion. So I like this as an option. Because also what this does do, while not essential, keeps the Renekton as a flex pick for mid lane. And does mean that they can play any champion top lane into the Cassante if they would like. Though, knowing Bliss, you would expect this is just going to be Lived playing the Renekton into the Cassante, a matchup that he chose for himself. The interesting part here, Skimmy, is the 4-5 bans from Mammoth. Where do they choose to go? Last game, it was Annie and Lissandra, but they just picked Sylas, and you'd safely say it went quite well. So where do you choose to go this time? Does Sylas join the list? Do you leave the Lissandra open? That is my suspicion.
Well, it'd be an interesting concept if Lissandra and Viego played together, given that they would be hunting for resets, much the same as that sort of Jinx playstyle. But given how poorly it went, maybe recency bias comes into effect and you do ban away to Sylas, which certainly is going to be the case here. So a bit of a a different approach going into the second game here with the same champion in pocket here for Dajeng. So what will Bliss decide to do now, knowing that take that Renekton still definitely can be flexed, whether or not they'd want it to go mid?
I don't think there's any harm in picking a support here, but with that in mind, right, the obvious choice is this Lissandra with the Sylas gone, so they've kind of gone for this, you choose A and B, we'll just pick C, and we've proven that Sylas was too good, you have to deal with it. Now you have to deal with a Viego that has the best lanes of all time to gank for. Just perma-ganking is so viable right now. As I love this hover from Yosan, the fact that he's going to pick this one up is quite interesting. Sylas being removed does leave the Alistar much more readily available. And it's his favorite champion. Heard it from the interview. Loves the engaged champions. Alistar is his favorite. This would be a very odd pick. That makes much more sense for Sully.
Certainly does. And back we go with the Hecarim one more time, but absolutely going back to your point, right? If you are going to deny away the Sylas, then certainly the Alistar is going to come out to play and give us a little bit of another indication as to what makes Yosan so individually brilliant. What will Bliss play into this one, though? Will they feel the necessity to match it with another aggressive support, such as like the Northwest?
Oh my god, it's an enchanter.
But we've somehow come to this head road.
Osa's discovered enchanters. We're back. I can't believe it. Akia, who has been very good on these hook champions, of course, was caught out of position a couple of times in game number 1, has found himself a Soraka. Now, he's gone for a double range matchup into the Alistar. Alistar right now has the Hecarim and the Cassante to gank with him. Ahri can potentially roam down here as well. The big thing for me is that Soraka makes Alistar's life miserable unless you have kill threat. And a lot of the times you'll see someone like Akia on this Soraka will run the barrier, will kind of remove all of that kill threat, and it'll be Lemus that goes for the cleanse or something of the like himself to just keep himself alive. And both people in this bot lane will be self-sufficient and they'll make your life hell. Zeri, close range, skill shot based champion, now you got to dodge the Soraka Q constantly. You step up as an Alistar in Vision, you just get silenced, you can't use your combo. So you have to be very careful, Mammoth, with how you actually play this one out, especially through that bot lane. Because right now, Bliss have lanes to gank, and you have to be so on the ball with your early game or it can get absolutely out of control.
Certainly can, and speaking to the idea of what makes it so strong for the Viego clearly is the fact that it's this, you know, plentiful of CC, but there's a whole bunch of damage there to complement it, to, especially post-6, find those resets and sort of, in a way, have that backline access still, right? Lissandra finds a nice little target, or you dive them, suddenly they're encased in a frozen tomb overlapping with his Zonias, and it's just so much time afforded where you're circling around like a shark in the water looking for their prey, but unable to actually capitalize on that victim. So it's an interesting conundrum as to how do Mammoth want to square this one up, because you're not going to play Alistar blindly, knowing that there are these counter picks, but you're looking to basically say, what's the lesser of two evils? We'll ban away the Sylas, we can handle the Enchanter, let's see what Ocean China game is like.
I think Alistar's a confidence champion as well, to be sure, right? Like, you're looking for those combos, you want the Zeri dashing forwards, you really want to be moving forward, so you need to see Sully, if not Dajeng as well, moving towards bottom lane, not necessarily to force these ganks, but for pressure. You want to unlock the Alistar on the map because he's so valuable when it comes to skirmishing. You can't afford to see him half HP stuck under his turret permanently, because that also opens the floodgates for the Viego to run away with it. So I am super curious with this game's draft overall, just to see how these lanes play out, right? How do these junglers work around their lanes? Because, again, we've spoken about it, how good Bliss are for that setup. I don't think Mammoth by any means are weak with their setup. It's just a Hecarim's a farm jungler, right, in comparison to that of an Ahri, who's more of the utility. So Ahri has to set up those ganks.
Much to my point then, because that was the big focus for us coming into this one. Two very aggressive junglers, how would they fare against each other? Has that sort of lived up to your expectations? Obviously, there was very different play styles as to how they wanted to approach it. Why not relentlessly ganking as opposed to solely relentlessly farming, but then having the headspace to know, okay, you're probably going to be looking here to make a fight happen, I'll just counter gank.
Yeah, I mean, it hits expectations in that they are different. They're both carries, but carries in different ways. Why not took the back seat last game, chose to be a utility carry for his team, right? Just wants to find his targets and have the team follow up. It's Sully who's going this Trinity Force Hecarim and is looking to put down damage. So they really have to respect him. He farmed really well. But when it came to those team fights, just couldn't quite keep up with the damage that Bliss were providing and was ultimately getting taken down. This time around, though, a little bit less in the way of bot lane utility to deal with a Hecarim, right? Like, a Gravitum isn't going to stop a Hecarim's ult. There's not going to be a Thresh Lantern this time around, right? So there might be even more backline access in this game, so some potentially good tools there for Sully and for Mammoth. But again, it's all about that execution, right? You think back to that first game, setup was everything. The fights that Chaeyoung couldn't participate in because they were mispositioned, he goes down. You know, the fights that they were able to play front to back and he was attacking, they were getting picks and winning. So I think a similar conversation should be had here with the extra knowledge that Azeri can flip fights by using walls and move speed and mobility and flip terrain to her advantage, where a Jinx has to play front to back.
And I think also Azeri is one of those champions that can, you know, not fall victim to the idea, much like a Jinx comp perhaps, where you need to snowball, you need to be ahead, you need to win. I feel like Zeri is one of those champs where you can, in a way, lose gracefully, but at the same time, you're always in with a shot. It just takes one kind of lapse of judgment from your position, and you're just ice skating on them all, and suddenly you've got a multi-kill here, maybe a pentakill there, and you're thinking, this champion's just too much.
But once again, it's not a Milio, it's not a Lulu, it's not a Yuumi to support this Zeri. It's so much more complicated than that with an Alistar in your lane, right? You can be aggressive, you can absolutely press forwards and try and go for these 2v2s, but it's not a composition built for Chaeyoung to succeed. He has to do that himself, right? It is a mechanical execution for him. So not quite bread and butter. You've watched the LCK, you've seen the Zeri Yuumis getting pentakills. It's not going to be that simple anymore.
Yeah.
And on the other side, it's not going to be a Blitzcrank hooking you, right? So like we've hit this really weird crossroads where normally you're seeing, you know, Zeri Lulu against like, or Zeri Yuumi against like a Jinx Lulu or a Lucian Milio. We've got this weird mix of like tanks and enchanters that are kind of backwards to what we've been seeing with these combos everywhere else.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, because we were like saying, oh, you know, we just need the Blitzcrank now to almost complete the Exodia of these new supports, you know, making their introduction here in the LCO, and now you're starting to see it getting banned in other regions. It's certainly got its head in the game as to a worthwhile pick, but I think, yeah, you're ultimately looking at how does the Enchanter matchup face in this one. It's our first real glimpse at it, and we're going to jump right back onto the couch because we had a bit of a remake here. Unfortunately, something went wrong. So we were just chin-wagging away here, just coming up with all our different theories. Any conspiracy theories on your end?
Conspiracy theories.
Not really. I mean, I didn't have any theories, but good old Max was filling me in on what could be happening and the draft meta.
So for me, I like the Soraka pick, but the thing for me was like Bliss's whole comp is about finding one person, destroying them, right? You have the Renekton, which is a bit like an oddball pick for me, in my opinion, into the Renekton, into the Cassante, like you don't really do too much damage. I know Renekton did get buffed, but he's still not at the stage where he's able to go toe-to-toe with someone like the Cassante. I think the Lissandra Viego is interesting in that it can deny the Hecarim Ahri's engage, but besides that, like if they don't find someone and blow them up and you are playing into an Alistar Cassante, it's going to be really hard to get going in these fights.
It's true, they are very tanky. They are very tanky, very hard to kill them, but at the same time, not a lot to support the Zeri, right? So I feel like that's where the game plan, like, every time you look at this, like how they're going to get kills, probably an AD carry dealing damage to Ophelia. Same thing to be said on the other side. So I think the game kind of revolves around that bot lane quite a lot.
Do you think the lane matchups are going to be going a little bit better? Because what I don't want to see is, you know, Bliss getting 2 solo kills again down in mid for themselves, getting another solo kill up top. Like, are lanes expected to be as this one-sided, or you're like, look, if they just keep a level head, they can actually come out pretty even, and Mammoth can really just snowball off of that?
To me, Lissandra Ahri is very hard for Lissandra to actually get a solo kill. The thing will be if Viego is going to come, and we know that Why Not is going to be the person to level 3 gank you right after 3 camps. And if he's able to blow a flash early on and then come back, you know, once the Lissandra level 6 is available, it's just a free kill, right? So to me, it is going to be about Dajong respecting, not throwing charms when he's running away, just running away, and making sure he's stable. Because if we go into the late game, obviously Ophelia Soraka is quite a powerhouse duo, but honestly, Mammoth just have the tankiness to really outscale them.
Is this Soraka really picked just as that combo breaker, or is there more to her in other regions, and we see a little bit more light about with these item changes in 13.11 as well that could add more value than just that combo breaker Alistar?
I think the value of Soraka in this comp is really high for not just how it denies Mammoth's composition, but how it works with yours, right? If your goal is pick, then you're actually not allowing the Ahri to escape, right? Like she ults in, stuck. You know, this Alistar tries to combo, is stuck, right? Like all of these things in consideration. A Cassante can't ult if he gets in the backline without using it at the very beginning. And I think like it allows Bliss's composition to combo really well. And I think it also denies a lot of what Mammoth have. It'll be hard to deal with a Zeri. You know, the Soraka pick's not going to be able to deal with that very well at all. But that's not his job.
And another thing about the Soraka as well is that it's actually quite a dominant lane pick when you're playing against something like the Alistar, right? People often gloss over this, but Soraka into something like the Alistar, like we mentioned, A, he's never able to get his engage. B, you're just going to have priority the entire lane phase. And with the comp like Blisses, you do need to stay ahead of the curve, right? You do need to make sure you're getting plates, getting heralds, taking those objectives first. And if you're able to, you know, keep the Bliss Mammoth bot lane rather, permanently pinned into their turret, bring your Viego and the Sandra down for a dive, that's a way you can accelerate the game beyond the point of return for Mammoth.
I like what you guys are putting down. Obviously, there's highs and lows for everything that's going on, but enough faith skin that you're like, yo, you're going to come back here and you're going to be like, yeah, blue side streak broken. Red side's going to win.
Look, I'm hoping. Otherwise, I sound like I know nothing, which is, you know, partially true.
You wouldn't be wrong if you said that about me.
Look, I can be fairly honest about that. I do a lot of yarning, and sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't, but that's beside the point. I'm still here sat in this couch, and, you know, you guys are still smiling.
Still here.
And that's all that makes me happy,
Do you reckon
mate.
that couch has like a butt grip just for you, Skim?
I wish.
Do you come to like sit on it sometimes and you're just like, someone else has been in it?
Like, damn.
It's a deep cushion.
That's a deep cushion.
That is not where
Who'll be
I was
singing
going.
that?
Oh, what a
we go
person
there.
who sat here before me.
That's a skim milk cushion right there, damn. Yeah, no, look, I never do that. But I can for you if that's what you want me to do, just to play along with this little pantomime.
Make a groove.
Yeah. Let me just... You, mate.
Yeah. It's
Been
got
keeping
this
that chair warm for you, mate.
Huge, mate. Huge.
Sit
well
down.
huge.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I just got a little bit distracted by him talking about sitting on the couch, and then I was just like, you guys have been on this couch for so long, and I was like, is it long enough?
Oh, we
You
got
hit
new
me with chaos.
couches. We got new couches.
Hit us with chaos and I'll
new grooves.
give it right back to you.
It's like a ping pong of chaos,
Absolutely.
and Max is just sat in the middle just watching it go back and forth.
I do have a back to the draft. If
Oh,
you
yeah,
want to
yes,
talk about
yes,
that, if
yes,
we're
yes.
talking
Bring it
about
back on
couches.
point.
Please do.
Where is the Zeri Yumi?
I don't know, mate. Where is it?
Oh, yeah, you're calling for it the
like,
whole time.
where is it? Like, it's so broken in every other region LPL. It's basically just an instant win because you're going to get to 3 items and Zeri just becomes unkillable. But we're just not willing to pick it. I don't know if teams are like, if this is a thing where Yersan's like, no, I want to play my Alistar. He did mention that in the pregame interview, right? Like, that's his favorite pick.
What was
It's
the
his
win
best-
percent rate on it again?
61.8% or something like that.
Nice, good with numbers.
Not to be too specific, but like, Zeri
I can go
Yumi's
2 decimals
available.
if you want.
To the nearest digit, yeah.
Yeah, I'll round it up for you guys after Champion Select. But like, yeah, it's just not being played, and to me, this is something that's like, it just really should be internationally. It's a meta pick. Can we just play it? That's my rant on.
Would you rather play a champion that you like an Alistar?
I'd rather just get into the game.
Okay.
Sounds
you guys.
good. Bye.
Get out of here then.
Nat just said,
Yeah,
when?
Bye.
No.
Because what I'm saying is I would rather play the Yuumi and win. As much as I hate Yuumi, I'd rather play it and win than play an Alistar and have more fun and lose.
Well, yeah, we're not here to have fun, are we? We're here to win.
Well, I'm here to have fun.
I mean, we are,
Yeah.
but we're not playing.
Well, yeah, exactly.
They're here to win.
They're here to win.
Right.
We're
We
here to
wanna have
tell
fun.
them how to win by having fun.
So we can say, yo, you're playing Yuumi, that's cringe, but then
Yeah.
they're winning. So
Cringe like a
then
winner.
we cringe for complaining about them being
Yeah.
cringe. Yeah, look, it's gone full
We
circle.
want them to be cringe, but we'll hate them for it.
We're on the
That's
same
how it
page.
works,
We're
right?
aligned. All these years together, we're on the same page, mate.
I wish they would play cringe stuff. But I do agree with Max. Of course, we are in game right now. Thank you all for bearing with us. The Yuumi is literally MIA. Do not know where it is. The Soraka has been picked, so at least we are starting to see some enchanters. And, you know, we spoke a little bit about the value of it. But just to quickly rehash for everyone, Skimmy, a lot of bruises once again in these team compositions. And an Alistar at level 1, unless he flash pulverizes, is just going to headbutt you away. Nothing doing. You're expecting Bliss to have push here. You're expecting them to have control here. You can see they're stamping their authority very early on. Soraka, you cannot trade into Soraka. Tanks into supports that are enchanters, full stop. You cannot trade into them unless it's an advantageous trade. Equal trades are losing because they have more utility than you do in the way of sustain. You have more utility in the way of crowd control. So you have to pick your battles carefully. I mean, you watch this. It's going to be rough until either it isn't or it's worse.
Yeah, it's getting completely zoned out there and just spammed by a flurry of star calls to obviously do damage, but keep yourself completely topped up at the very same time. No surprise there in the top lane. Of course, between Tien and Liv, they're going to have a crack at it, get themselves very dangerously low in the rush to level 2. That could certainly be the difference maker here as they both jump in aggressively, having hit that benchmark. And Tien going to get the knockback and actually a bit of a sizable HP advantage now.
I wouldn't be shocked to see Liv try and get a tempo reset, but he's going to pop the potion instead and try and place some deeper vision, see if he can either find Sully at blue or just place it in river to protect himself. Smart ward, by the way, from Liv, because instead of placing it in the bush where Hecarim can run faster than you can react, he'll place it a little bit deeper. But Sully, knowing full well that there was a ward in the river and not knowing where, will go the long way.
Nice ward,
and Liv
bro.
just dashed in.
What if I was just to run around this way? Liv is a sitting target right now, and he's going to get absolutely smashed. There is the first blood, and it goes the way of Tien.
And Why Not has introduced him to the 3-camp gank. Sully says, don't mind if I do. Now, the sacrifice will be of this red buff. So still Bliss finding something in response for Liv going down. He will be able to teleport back to that wave in top regardless, but still very nice active move here from Mammoth early. Full credit to them for making that gank work to a very volatile lane state in top.
Certainly the success you love to see to start off this game here. Trade-off will be first blood results in 2 camps being taken away, denied from the clear that Sully returns to. As he looks to be in the area to potentially protect his bottom lane, which, no surprises, are going to be backs against the wall, stuck underneath their turret, having to deal with the artillery of range damage.
They know that Sully is here, so you can see them start to respect this one. Lemus is the target.
Sully's going to be careful here. He's going to jump onto Lemus, but he instantly flashes away, stunned against the wall, in trouble. Actually gets the kill, does Yosan! And Sully's still surviving. No. He's swinging the hammer around. He's got the scythe, the polearms putting in work. He gets one, they get one. It's an absolute nightmare for Bliss.
Oh, that's so painful to see. Arkia flashes to try and confirm a kill, but just straight misses the Q. Not even sure the flash was going to do anything. We'll watch it again. Arkia will find Sully. They'll know the target's on. Now, the thing that's really good here is the silence from Mr. Arca. Alistar's not used an ability. And so it looks good, but once that cycling of silence comes through, suddenly they get their first target. Diego doesn't get the reset. Arkia then says in for a penny, in for a pound. And gets taken there to the death chamber with his jungle.
You can certainly see the strength of the composition, right? The stun, root, silence, all that ramped up time. It wasn't enough to net them that kill. Sully really playing on Death's Edge. But able to come out ahead. You can see that the Def end vote hasn't really changed despite the victory.
This is a kill threat as well, 100%. Lived has fighted, he's just dashed, he's just
dashed
sliced, he's in trouble.
It's deja vu, Rusty. Sully jumps in, it's literally what we saw before. He just rots him down.
And I'd love this from Sully Skimmy. This aggression, this gank-centric playstyle counteracts almost in its entirety what Team Bliss have drafted for themselves, right? Renekton with gank setup, Lissandra with gank setup. You've got the purple weapon from Lemus as well as the silence from Soraka that you could potentially gank for. None of that's going to happen because Sully is getting there so much faster than Why Not could even consider it a possibility. Renekton dies twice, teleport's gone. Every single time it's because he's being aggressive to try and keep control of his lane. Daystar hasn't existed yet in this game because he's going relatively even with Darjung back to utility. And bot's been successful for him as well. And if Sully's a carry player, he's the one that's picked up these kills. Best case scenario for Mammoth.
100% KP. It all stems around Sully as it stands right now. You can see obviously with a sizable margin in his own back pocket, he's going to be feeling very confident about his ability to try and bring this one to a 1-1 draw. As we zoom in on the cannon, it's so exciting to see, but it's confirmed.
Observers with a big moment of judgment for Chaeyoung, just preempting.
Has
he been known to miss these or something? Have they noted a trend that we haven't? Also is the cull start for both AD carries in this bottom lane as well. So neither of them realistically looking for any kind of kills. I spoke about this before, Max brought it up, but Blitz want to push, they want to pressure. They just want to harass your health bar down slowly but surely. But if you get kills in bottom lane, suddenly it's not as possible. You can't just sit in Alistar's combo range and throw those abilities out because you get engaged on. And it's a glacial that locks you down. There's an ignite that's there. And right now you're seeing a wave start to build up and potentially crash. I think this is a risky dive.
Sully's already hit the ghost.
Sully's going.
He's hard forcing this play, but it really is just a drive-by. Walks straight in through and says, I'm doing something. And I'll say, yes, you did.
Perhaps there was a call from mid lane here from Darjung saying Lissandra is moving down, be careful of Daystar, and he says, well, I'll just run through, right? Loses most of his health for it, sure, but doesn't die. Gets out with his life. They have no hard crowd control to lock him down, so all things considered, not too bad. LCO not known for missing cannons so far, so we can't judge them too hard just yet. But again, another play fizzles in bottom. Does he stop the base? He does not.
Not on this occasion. That's going to be quite contentious to shove this one. And wait for Dajong to walk all the way back into the mid lane. This time actually with the Unsealed Spellbook, has Ignite in hand as it stands, so no TP back.
Top percentage Alistar skin though, must be said.
Okay.
Now I am a fan of the purple Chroma, but can't judge Chroma choice. He's got the correct skin.
Will we be seeing the cowbell come out? That is my main question.
That's the only reason you picked the skin, right?
It's absolutely best.
It'd be rude not to.
It is the go-to.
Doesn't seem like he has cowbelled so far, so his cowbell per minute is at an all-time low. Now that is the one stat that I do track.
Very important one to track.
I mean,
Off the books though.
above all else, right? The Rift Herald, who cares? Is he ringing his cowbell? This actually here to contest this one.
Well, they got the Drake completely uncontested. Every single time Why Not's made something happen, it's been as a direct result of Sorely forcing a gank topside.
Tian's here first. They're committing.
They are certainly committing, but unstoppable. In goes the Hecarim, looking to try and do as much damage as they can. A wish comes down from bot lane, but it certainly isn't enough to keep them alive this time around. They need a wish, because it is a nightmare. Sorely finds another kill. They find 2 combined. They find everything they need to guarantee the Herald.
Really good target selection from Mammoth, right? More than anything else, it's the Viego that you do not want to allow to get those resets. You do not want to allow those kills to come across, and so he is the first target that falls. Perfect prioritization, but also Bliss choosing to take this fight. Knowing that their top laner is weak, as bot engages a little bit here as well, but it's not going to be anything meaningful just yet. Lima's out of mana, so this one should just fizzle and be a reset with a blue weapon clear of the wave. Mammoth running away with this one, Skimmy. 6-0 is the scoreline.
It's a pretty clean game on that front, it has to be said. Let's run it back with how it all starts, because it's Bliss thinking, okay, we're putting up a contest here. We feel strong with a global ultimate.
Yeah, and everyone else has ults here, right? Why Not does, but you watch how this fight plays out. Quite simply, the Sandra goes in, they find their Hecarim ult, the charm connects, and just like that is completely gone. The fact that Tan's able to save his all-out mode for another target, Daystar goes down. He used the claw to get in there to make that play, and Bliss actively choosing to take the fight are made to fall on their own sword.
So oppressively strong is it when Alessandro and Viego get to work and find those resets. It's a little bit too much to bear, but completely denied on that front. They were all in about it to guarantee that aftermath, but it wasn't to be the case. Certainly is all things Mammoth right now, as we hit that 10-minute mark, and it is a fairly sizable goal lead, up by 3,000. And you can imagine the majority is still in the hands of Sorely.
I just want to make it known as well that if Mammoth do win this game, we cannot look at Bliss and say it's the Enchanter's fault. I just want to put that out there. He is free from judgment right now. One bad flash, doesn't matter what champion he was playing with that flash. Could have been anything.
Could have been a fresh play.
Could have been anything. It could have been a Thresh play. He won that game.
Yep.
That's right. Looking bottom just to clear this wave to give a free reset out to Limas. Not actually looking for the fights. Mammoth, however, are the ones that seem to be the aggressors, but there is a Lissandra and an Ari waiting in the wings here with a Drake on the cards.
Yeah, just going to get bleeded out. The river is Sorely there. Battle of the control ward. Daystar with the inline track is going to be enough to deter them from that, but he got a little bit of vision.
Fight, 100%, but Tian's not here just yet, and teleport is available for Liv.
There it is.
So you wait for the timings. You've got 2k health on the Drake.
Sorely looking. Will he go for it? Do they take the 50-50? He jumps in. A little bit too early, not to be the case. 2 go the way of Bliss right now, but can they get out with their lives intact? Here now, on the flank, Johnson in, Frozen Tomb, stunned, locked up, and unable to do much. But Yostan flashes in with a 3-man pole. He's found his target with the Ignite, but can they kill confirm? Here on top of Arceus' head is Sorely at least, but surrounded by 3. The rest of his team's in the river, dealing with a rogue Renekton, but it is Chen that picks up his first kill of the game. Tien says, we want more. Wish goes out, Sustain is there, but not enough. 2 kills for Zeri now, having a bit of a Zeri moment. Not going to be free as Tien at least gets reward. I mean, he set that one up beautifully and had a 4 wraparound underneath this tier 1. What are you, 12 minutes in?
Oh, they've got nowhere to go if Tien wants to body them out, but it seems like he's just going to let them go. It was dangerously close to being forced under the turret, but it didn't seem like they had the wave in time. And 2 members of Bliss will scrape away with their lives intact, but nothing more. Bliss will secure a Drake, and they will get their first kill of the game. But Mammoth are the ones who get 3, will win the skirmish very successfully. Yursam with a nasty combo. as Bliss right now have 5. And the second Tian gets here, it is an even playing field. Bliss split, flashes used, the combo hits 3, and the fight is lost for Team Bliss. The advantage they have here is a really nice flash from Daystar, actually draws attention to Liv, who survives forever. It actually lets them get the kill onto Sully, who's separated from the herd. But then the re-engage here from Tan, he finds his angle, and just so clean from the rest of Mammoth, right? Once they find their opportunities, they do prey upon Bliss very successfully.
Yeah, not content in a single 1-for-1. They wanted more and more. They certainly found. 9-1, that was the scoreline. And what really was the Sully show for such a long time there in those first 10 minutes. Now, Chaeyoung and the rest of the team find themselves elevated with what? The top 3 amount of gold.
X-Flash used here by Yosan, not going to go forwards aggressively, though he is posturing for it. And this is where Alistar is at his strongest. A genuine issue now is his engage, because it's hard to kill him. He's not your target. You don't really want to go for him if there is a damage threat like Sully with the Trinity Force done on his Hecarim right next door. So the charge gets confirmed. Look at the pressure it draws, Skimmy, every single time they even threaten bottom now. Why not end Daystar move? Which means Daystar's not winning mid.
No.
Which means Darjung's a happy man. And
As
bottom.
soon as they rotate back up, though, they find their moment to strike and say, why not? You've been lurking in that bush for far too long. You don't have your mid laner to back you up. We feel so strong to guarantee this one. And it is going to be the Archaea paying the price for it. Completely taken apart. And this bot lane is starting to get a little bit out of hand.
And very simple gameplay from Mammoth, right? They play the Daystar game. Is the Lissandra mid? If no, we can hold off. If yes, go. Suddenly the engage happens, the second Daystar shows mid, and just like that, they get themselves another pick onto Archaea. Now 0-3 on this Soraka has been absolutely punished. But he is a symptom of a much larger problem here from Bliss, and that problem is Hecarim's early ganks have thrown this game completely out of whack.
It feels like, to your point, then flowchart gaming. Just can we meet all these different conditions? And if yes is the overwhelming vote, then strike with vengeance and certainly strike with authority here. 3-0-3 on the Zeri right now. Trinity Force already complete. Second item well in the works.
Mans is moving.
And this Alistar is certainly on a mission to act as a jungler.
Little expedition by himself, going to place a deep ward there near the red buff and one at the Krugs that'll spot the Viego, I believe. If not, just miss him. I think that saw him a little bit.
It'd be right on the edge, wouldn't it? Yeah. You see the ping come out there.
X-Flash coming in top lane though. Lived big trouble. Lived very big trouble.
Yeah, they're going to jump even before the minion wave comes in. Tien's going to still attend to that one, but out he goes. But the CC gets layered. The stun, the passive, the stun again. And the fourth death of this game. It's the volatility of playing Renekton. Weren't too convinced, was Max, about this one in the drafting phase. And that that price really has been paid. I mean, it's been targeted relentlessly from the very get-go, First Blood.
That's it. You pick Cassante straight up. It makes a lot of sense. You answer with Renekton. You've got to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. There was no strategy. He got ganked, and now it's gone from bad to worse. Mammoth not letting Bliss time to cook up any plans. No chance to build strategies. This is the attempted counterplay, but there's already teleports coming in.
Yeah, they tried to four-man dive into Daljung, but the backline is saying that's not going to happen. Mammoth with better vision control, jump in and strike a little bit first. Thought a little bit too over eager. Unsure about that one there, Rusty. Was at the Dragon Pit while the rest of his team were locked inside the lane. And that couldn't come at a worse time because Dragon has just spawned.
Daystar in a really nice position here to find a flank. Does not have his ultimate, however, so can be immediately pulverized and killed. No stopwatch. Daystar gets attacked by the Drake, so actually has to lose his advantage. And Tian's just such an issue. So tanky right now as he presents as a threat. And look at Chaeyoung. All eyes go to this area when the fight breaks out.
There goes Daystar, jumps and missed the Everfrost though. Chan still skirting the backline. Look at try and find his moment. Lightning Crash goes out. Tien is there. The Wish goes through. Chan trying to do it all on his own, but forced to flash away. Realize, hang on a minute, I can't do that.
Oh, they get him.
Limas gets him with the flash forward auto attack. Gets two actually. And suddenly some resets are found. Some life is found. And some gold goes back into their inventory.
And you're left wondering, Skimmy, was that a fight that Mammoth needed to take? Sully now threatening to potentially steal the Drake. If he goes for this, that is, at best, a bad decision. So has to choose to back away. Think about how all of this started. Think about how it starts before that follow-up fight where shutdowns go over. It's the jungler dead. still currently in base. Not going to make it anytime soon. Charm hits, Lissandra goes forwards, Everfrost and flashes the Alistar combo, rendering the Alistar effectively useless, and he uses his ultimate for no good reason. And Chayon's just trying to ice skate in front of the face of all of this damage. You can be 5,000 gold down, but if your jungle is dead, that 5,000 gold is missing, and so it's an even battle. And that's the fight that Mammoth choose to take? Probably just accept the L that your jungle is gone, give up the Drake if they're going to force like that, and take a fight on your terms.
So it's a head scratcher because it's now opened the door for Team Bliss to get a very early soul point and almost a bailed out condition for how disastrous the early game went, right? Mid game comes around, suddenly feeling a lot stronger about yourself. Bear in mind, it's another Ocean Soul at just that to rub salt into the wounds.
They were looking at like 6,000 odd gold down. Who cares if they get the third Drake? Just play the next 5 minutes out winning. Right, hit your win condition, go for this Herald like you're seeing right now. But instead, 2 shutdowns and a lot of money into the hands of a team that had no right earning it. They played it very well, Bliss. Full credit to them for actually picking that fight and getting those kills. You kind of feel like it was Mammoth's decision that they chose to take.
1-up surely must be very grateful was afforded towards them as he's able to pick up the double kill on that occasion and get a little bit closer to matching the power disparity between himself and this Zeri. Back we go to farming up a storm once again. Back into these side lanes. The second tower is found here by Mammoth, now completely exposing both top and bot lane. All eyes on the mid lane now, the highway to success. To get that vision control and allow the likes of an Alistar and a Hecarim to continue to flank.
Yersan actually has got a really nice flank here. Is about to be spotted, however, and Daystar can collapse upon him. So we'll push the Alistar away. But the Herald charge all but confirms it. So now all of the outer turrets are gone. Game gets a little bit more difficult for Mammoth here to continue to break these turrets, right? Less map for Bliss than needs to be worried about. And somewhat safe in their way to clear vision, right? A Soraka can throw the Star Calls into the bushes before walking in. Have that vision as confirmation. So it's not going to be a case, presumably, of Bliss just outright face-checking. It is going to be something from Mammoth, right? A flank from Tian, a teleport ward, a Hex Flash or Flash from Yersan. Could be what they're looking forward to in the next couple of minutes if they want to continue to accelerate their gold advantage. Another option is Baron in 10 seconds, and Drake that they need to fight for in 2 minutes.
First to deploy towards this Baron, right on cue, is Team Mammoth. As Bliss will find themselves with slightly disjointed resets, both Lived as well as Daystar going back to base now to regroup and respond to the threat of a potential Baron on spawn. Scryers will reveal to them that there is no need to be concerned. They have a fair bit of time to try and work with, that they can in fact attend to these side lanes before they do group up as 5.
Chain also clearing that middle wave here is most of the DPS for this Baron buff, but now they start to work towards it. You can see the spells getting thrown out. Bliss have to walk through an Alistar if they want to get there, and that is something that makes them just a little bit cautious. Tian as well. Threatening on this flank position. Mammoth, it seems like their goal is to turn, not to do the Baron buff right now. And they turn.
A pulve across the wall, found 2 members, get those kills and get them quickly. You're waiting for Liv to TP in right now. Daystar ults himself, comes out of that one and is removed. All out goes Tien. He's found his mark in this game, I'll tell you that much. He's feeling resurgent on the Cassante. That was the bait.
Look at the Alistar once again. You want to contest this, you're feeling desperate. Well, here comes a Hex Flash straight on your face if you're not careful. They get into the river, but they know that they're in dangerous territory. Big blue weapon.
It's a massive blue weapon, and they flash right in onto Darshing. Said they tried to steal it, but so hard to beat a Smite. Sorely kill confirms. He's got that one for the team. And now they have 4 members to utilize this buff, to utilize the combat stats, to pounce upon their prey, and to find themselves an ace.
That's so much better from Mammoth. Baron buff secured, team fight secured. It's a fight on their terms. It's a fight with their setup. And suddenly, it is a 10,000 gold difference. It is Mammoth in the driver's seat. You know their intent is to turn here as well, but they actually group up perfectly for an Alistar headbutt pole combo. And the fight that breaks out here is with Why Not Dead at the forefront. Daystar, no chance to stay alive. Tian's going to use the ult just to secure that, just in case he managed to survive. And then Yersan, always thinking about the next step, puts himself on a flank. And you can see the Bliss genuinely hit a nasty combo here with the Infernum weapon and Liv finding his mark. But at all points when they go forwards here, they've acknowledged that this is desperate. and they do flash forwards for this one. Even with a missed combo from Yursa, there is still a Hecarim to secure that kill.
Certainly was a wish and a dream in a case of denying as many of these Baron buffs as possible. They'll have to settle for one, but really for Mammoth there, they played that Baron bait out pretty flawlessly. Obviously drew in the right targets. Thankfully for them, it was the Viego and the Lissandra to step up and grace them with their presence. But now, can they actually use the Baron buff? That is the question. Darjeeling is in trouble. He's gone golden, and one is going to fall on down, but not before Darjeeling actually finds himself in that 1-for-1 trade. 2 kills now for the Zeri. Flashing forward is Cheyenne, sitting on a triple kill, but his lights go out as Lemus gets the kill. He'll die for it, though. Overextended to get that trade on an AD carry. But the Baron does actually reward them something this time, Rusty. It's not going to be 20 gold.
Yeah, Lemus cannot move. He's in a bouncy castle with all of the knockups just hitting him constantly, and they pelt him. And it does mean that Mammoth will be able to break the base here of Team Bliss. You can see the turrets now start to drop, but saving grace is that Lemus did win that 1v1 against Cheon, which means they're not going to be able to just push an inhibitor and end a game tempo, and DPS is not there for structures for Mammoth. So ultimately, credit where it's due for Bliss. They choose to take this fight seeing the Cassante bottom, and they go straight on the carry. So they have their target, they find their mark, but a stopwatch from Darjong stops Why Not from getting a reset, stops him from being untargetable, and allows this play to be so successful for Mammoth, where Lemus, you can see, is having the time of his life, just being thrown around like a ragdoll. But still, he got the kill, right? He got Cheon, he stemmed the Baron buff, keeping them in this game, but still in a losing situation.
Certainly is. But trades like this keep you in the mix of things, keep you optimistic that one fight could certainly go your way. All comes around those timings of summoners, of those item break points as well.
The thing is, Gimme, it doesn't feel like scaling is an advantage for Team Bliss by any means. Not with a Zeri this fed, not with a Hecarim as well that's so far ahead in his own gold. But I think an Anathema's Chains as his third item, I can't quite see that.
It is, yep.
So no one's really dealing damage anymore. Which means they have to take these numbers advantages, right? They have to take these opportunities where Mammoth show these slight imperfections, and they have been, showing those imperfections. It hasn't been flawless gameplay from Mammoth in either game. They've shown so much promise, but they've shown so much inconsistency that if Bliss need to win, they have to find it.
But it certainly is a welcome introduction to a brand new season, right? With a different different roster, I should say, right? You've gone up against 2 of the heavy hitters from the playoffs, one in the grand final,
Tough
one,
start.
right? You're not really getting that easy strength of schedule, and to potentially end it on a 1-for-1 against both of those heavy hitters, and it's a strong testament just to sort of see how strong that honeymoon phase could be.
Without a doubt, and it shows the potential of Mammoth, right? Like we speak towards these inconsistencies. What that means is that there is so much upside that we are still getting from them. So the tale of the tape is that Mammoth have so much potential, we just need to see that really actualized. And so far, poised to take the 1-1 against the team that you could have in first or second in your predictions.
In goes Thorley, found himself a Lissandra. Quickly gets told to stop galloping. It's rude.
Face in. Yep. Gallivanting everywhere, has to be put back in his place.
Feels like a little bit of systematic League of Legends at this point, though, Rusty. We're going across the map and taking every single structure that the map can afford us. That's 6-0. No, 7-0, actually, in terms of structures. The map truly does belong to them. And Team Bliss are forced to turtle inside their base and draw that line in the sand.
It is Mammoth's world. Bliss are just living in it. Your son does also have that real flash available, so doesn't need the Hex Flash charge time. And he is probably the man that you look forward to the most when it comes to these skirmishes, right? You have the flanks from Tian perhaps, but the fight has to start for a flank to be a potential, and Tian is the one that will be flanking from Yursan's engages. So we look towards this Alistar and say it's one of his favorite champions, and so far so good in the way it's been played out. For me, the star of the show is still Sully in his early ganks and what that has meant for the map as a whole. But a lot of great things here from the bot lane of Mammoth.
Certainly is. As Mammoth are the ones to get jumped upon. Tien finds himself at a spot above it. Entoppo strikes, brings them back. Goes golden, does Daystar. Tien still taking up the world and more. Onslaught of Shadows up to 3 right now. Forced to flash away. Out goes the blue weapon. Tickles them. Doesn't do enough. Nobody low enough to try and commit with the Gale Force to get that execute. Zap doesn't find the mark.
Dajang, one charge left on that ultimate. If he was going to look for a charm again, was certainly possible. But it seems like both teams somehow, even with the gold deficit that Bliss have, just walk away with their lives intact. But Tien still has the ultimate.
We go again.
Teleports are coming in as well. Fight happening once more.
We're forcing HP advantages. We're forcing summoner advantages. We're focusing on flash advantages. Jumping on in. Does go Yerstein, trying to find his moment, trying to find his stun, trying to prevent the reset. And it has been denied again. 2 kills found by Seri. This Viego has not been able to play the game. It's a quadra, it's not the penta. It's denied. Cheon tried to make history being the only person to get 2 pentakills in the LCO.
Teo may not get the pentakill, but Tien still comes in clutch in the fight, pulls Lemus away from the mix, and a solid quadra as Mammoth will beat down the door of Team Bliss and show that this new upstart rookie roster, well, that was Bliss in Split 1. Welcome to Mammoth in Split 2. It's our turn to show you what we can do.
The new dark horse to keep your eyes on as a neutral, one to be excited for, really. They have absolutely brought the pain and the punishment to Team Bliss here in game number 2. A quicker win, a quicker outcome, and a tie to share the spoils.
And the type of game that just started so incredibly rough from Bliss, and I mean, it does draw into question the draft just a little bit, particularly with that top lane, right? Choosing to go for the Renekton and choosing to have this really brawl-heavy 1v1 while your jungle is playing the opposite side of the map and being as aggressive as he was. I mean, was it the Renekton? Was it the play style? You know, a couple of questions that only really Bliss can answer. But for us, Sully ganked everywhere. He got it done for the boys at Mammoth, and that was exactly what they needed to take home a dub.
Entertaining game, if nothing more. I mean, really from a perspective of why not being usually the one to try to dominate the match, they're very out of place in that game. That if Viego was a passenger, I'd be very curious to sort of see what the damage graph looked like. I remember when we used to have a very Viego-heavy meta, and there'd be times that Viego would be doing less damage than the support, so I'm curious to see sort of where that's at.
Yeah, I do like the point that you also brought up just then, Rusty, about Sully. We saw this similar sort of aggression in game 1. Like, that's what he wanted to bring to the table. But in game 2, everything connected so much better. I don't know where this confidence, whether it was in the draft, the side they're playing, if they just knew the execution a little bit better on the side of Mammoth. But everything that they were looking for, it just worked out perfectly for the Max.
And to me, it was a bit of a flip of the script, right? In this matchup and, you know, last game, what we saw was the Hecarim staying 10 CS per minute, hitting all of his camps. Viego, by the previous game, getting those ganks off. But this game, Sully was everywhere, and when you're flipping the script on a team this early on, right, the Team Bliss's team comp needs to get ahead, they need to snowball. If you're having Hecarim able to get these ganks off top lane, able to get these ganks off bot lane and really allow that Zeri Alistar to break out of what is an incredibly oppressive lane, it really opens up avenues for them to take over the game. And, you know, Bliss certainly continuing the trend of win fast, lose fast. This game certainly, they got steamrolled.
I think that's starting to become an LCO-wide trend as well. Like, I'm wondering if Bliss have come in and just like reinvented how scrims have been going, and everything's just 15 minutes.
Yeah,
because it feels like it's not just Bliss, right? You mentioned this happening with Mammoth as well. They're not the only team. The LCO is right now win fast, lose fast gameplay.
It is good and bad to see that. Obviously, it's really nice to be able to see a team come in dominant, to see them really execute a lineup well for themselves, but at the same time, it's like, what happened to Bliss? Like, this isn't the Bliss that we saw last week or in game 1. Like, if you looked at this game 2 in a vacuum, you would kind of really wonder what's happened to this roster a little bit. But aside from that, there are so many great things that we want to talk about from Mammoth, especially what this means for them a little bit more in the standings as well. The big question you still have, though, is do you think a different support max would have changed the outcome of this game, or the way that it was so cleanly played, you really could have made heads or tails of it?
Look, I'm going to be honest, I flamed Yersan for not picking Yuumi, but his Alistar was very good this game. He had a lot of clean engages. This one here wasn't super clean, but ended up working. He had a lot earlier on in the Dragon fights where he was able to find multi-man knockups. That play earlier on in the bot lane skirmish where he waits out the silence, then goes for the headbutt pulverize combo, really, really intelligent and speaks to his pedigree on that champion. But basically, I think that he looks very confident and Mammoth look very confident when they're the ones pulling the trigger, when they're the ones able to make those decisive plays. And spearheaded by Sully, I think that Mammoth just took Bliss by surprise.
Do you guys know what the KD of Renekton was at the end of it? Paul lived on Renekton.
No, I stopped looking once he
say
was
at least-
0-2 at the KDA.
Dude, okay, I stopped looking once he was 0-4, and then I was like,
Maybe 0-6?
wow, okay. it wasn't like to single him out or anything, but it's one of those top lane matchups that if you're letting Kasate through, there has to be idea to be able to not necessarily shut him down, but delay his timings, make him feel less impactful, make him want to rotate a lot slower or a lot less in team fights. And so far, we've seen the Poppy matchup on the side of Mammoth. They thought that could have been the answer. Now we see Bliss think that maybe Renekton's the idea behind it, but neither of them proving to be able to stop what is the unstoppable force of Kasante.
The answer is banning it. I think if
I'd
we
go
have
the
to be- if you have to
outside
be
of the
honest.
banning, you know? Because then you limit yourself to 4 bans.
Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai,
Is the
oh my
answer
gosh.
Rek'Sai though?
That's all. I'm genuinely serious. It is because he has execute damage. She has execute damage
Yeah.
when he ults. But basically, the thing for me is the reason I think that game looks so bad for Renekton especially is that comp just needs to be ahead. And when they're behind, you're a Renekton playing into champions that completely outrange you. You have an Alistar. You've got these tanky members like a Kasante as well to deal with. Like, you are just simply not going to be able to find anyone in fights. And, you know, credit to Bliss. They were quite behind, but even that last fight, you know, there were elements where they could actually have brought it back a little bit, but the goal deficit was just too big.
I think what you're saying there, Max, is you want to go back in time, forget about this patch, go back to when Prowler's Claw was a thing. Prowler's Claw Renekton, jump upon him, get the kill, get it done.
That's what I'm saying.
That's it. We just need to be in a completely different patch and a completely different era.
Wind it back.
Yeah.
Wind back the clock.
Different series. Early on, there was a little bit of a play that you wanted to highlight, Max, that you wanted to look at. That was probably the Kickstarter to why this Mammoth lineup had the time it did.
Yeah, this was the Herald skirmish here, and you know, typically with this top side of Bliss, you're very scared of their level 6 fight, but look at how they play this, right? So they get collapsed upon towards that top side. TN and Sully both using their unstoppable abilities, the Kasante W and the Hecarim R respectively. They're able to navigate the fight so they end up in a favorable position, and then it's a simple front to back. And the skirmishing consistently across the board from Mammoth, although they shouldn't have a strong skirmishing at these points in the game, they were just able to find ways through mechanical outplays to subvert that power disparity.
Well, with it being a 1-1, does mean that we're going to be interviewing both teams. And we're going to start off with Mammoth. We're going to have Tien on the line here. Tien, hey, congratulations on getting a game off of Bliss. First of all, how does that one feel? Because they're a pretty formidable opponent.
I'm kind of triggered that I threw game 1. Like, I think we should have 2-0'd them. I don't think that the players on Team Bliss are that great. Yeah, so I feel like, yeah.
All right,
we should have definitely taken 2-0.
It's understandable. I was trying to hype you up a little bit because my next question was going to be what happened in game 1. I want to know from your point of view, what was the big turning point? At what point were you like, okay, maybe we've missed our window? And then as a team, what's the chat to reset on what felt like a very winnable game for you?
I guess just because, like, I mean, our team hasn't scrimmed for literally 4 days because we've just been cancelled on a bunch. And like, we are so unpracticed in the post-Baron sieges. Like, we actually don't even get to, like, even in the games that we do get to scrim, like, games don't even last till after Baron. So, like, as you can see, our Baron sieges aren't that clean. And yeah, when I just threw the game, I was a bit tilted from that. And I think the game was definitely in our hands to win.
Alright, that's understandable.
In regards to the top lane meta, we've seen Kasante being picked early by both teams, and neither answer that was brought out this series really felt like it did that much. What's your personal take on that pick? Are there picks that can beat it, or is it just something that needs to be removed?
I mean, I know I got solo killed in the Poppy game, but I'm pretty sure I was like 30-40 CS up in lane. Like, I think if I just decided not to hit him on the tower for fun, I think my chance, like, I think Kasante is strong, but it really depends on the player that plays Kasante. I think, like, you can bring a lot to the table with this champion, but it really depends on your skill level, right? Like, in game 1, I don't think Kasante was that crazy. I think Kasante did do well. And in this game, I think they just didn't know what to do versus Kasante. And
now with the information that you just told me that you guys have struggling scrim-wise and on finding them, how is slotting Yersin in been for you? Has it been easy? Has it been tough? Like, where are the communications for the team and sort of fitting in his ideas of champions for the draft?
I mean, Yersan's an import and he's going to be really good. I think he definitely showed Akio what an import should look like. I think he totally gapped bot lane. And yeah, I think he's got hands, he's got brain, he's actually a really good team leader, and he's got great mental. Like, Yersan integrating into OCE is like a cheat code. I've never played with it in my life.
Awesome. Well, Tien, thank you so much for joining us, and I absolutely love the insight you gave there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's what we need our interviews to be like from now on.
Absolutely kept.
Take notes, all
Chopstick
the LCO players.
Exclusives, eh? You need like the banner along exclusive. He said that shit.
But gapped.
It was crazy, man. I didn't think Tion was so
Wow.
savage.
I liked it.
I love it.
You could tell that. I think it is a little bit. It's one of those like perfect mixtures where a little bit tilted from game 1. We won in game 2, so I have a little bit of a leg to stand on with the shit talking, and then you're just like, smack him down. This is an import, brother.
Still showed Akio what an import should look like. Like,
It's a bar.
my man.
Put that one in the top 3 quotes of LCO.
My man's went big in week 1 though. Like Akio was good. Now he's like, not your son though. Your son better.
Not against Mammoth. Not against Mammoth.
Jeez.
Yeah, that one's rough, but I liked the insight there as well, and the fact that they're not really practiced in the post-Baron sieges, and that was exactly what you pointed out, Rusty. Like, this is where it fell apart for them. Nothing happened for them after this.
Yeah, I mean, we had a replay. We came out of the replay, and there was like, Tim was already dead.
Yeah.
And then another pick happened from Dajong at the top turret, trying to defend it in a 1v1. And then suddenly there was a tower in mid gone as well. So that post-Baron was an absolute disaster from Mammoth in game 1.
Well,
and I think they know that.
I want to hear from the other side of the coin. I want to hear from Bliss. We have Lemus joining us here. Lemus, hey, congratulations, a 1-1. How you guys feeling after a draw?
Hey, what's up? Well, it feels good to like at least take the draw, of course. But I mean, we were coming into this one like expecting to get 2 wins, so it's like a bittersweet feeling, really.
Yeah, what occurred in game 1 for you guys to dominate lanes as you did, but not be able to transition into this early mid part of the game so cleanly? It felt like there might have been a lack of cohesion. Were you guys just not on the same page as to what objectives to take, what team fights to find?
Well, I think for game 1 we weren't really. I mean, besides they started getting like a few solo kills mid lane, I don't think we were that ahead in any lane really. I think we just had a very good team comp with dealing with the Jinx, so we were like very easily able to like shut her down no matter how fed she got. And I think we just like played team fights better, and like our setup was better than them in like the objective fights as opposed to like stomping lane. And as for game 2, I think we just made way too many like individual mistakes. Like we died to too many ganks, and we misplayed a few skirmishes, or rather I should say like they outplayed us in a few skirmishes. And then as a result, like the gold lead was quite large, but I still think we did pretty well to like stay competitive in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Lemus, hot off the press, Tien just said that Arkia was shown by Yosan what an import should look like. What are your thoughts on that statement?
I mean, credit where credit is due to Yosan. I think he played quite well. Just like as an ADC, you can really tell like who's like a good support and who's not. Like for example, in that last team fight, he was just like perma applying pressure onto me and just like holding his combo for me, which made it like very hard for me to like DPS, and that's something that you don't really see in Oceanic support. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty good, but I still think Arkia is better than him. I think with Arkia, like we still got some things to improve on, and like our communication flow is still improving. So I think like Tien, I mean, Yosan is just lucky that him and Cheon both speak Chinese. So once we get our communication on point, I think we'll dominate them.
Yeah, I mean, you guys still have 5 more best of 2s to go to show that improvement, to work on it. But thank you so much for joining us, Lemus. And look, even though you're not happy with it, congratulations on the draw.
Thank you, thank you. Have a good night, guys.
You too. See ya. I know it's rough to walk away from a draw, but they also kind of be a little lucky that game 1 did end up going in their favor. You know, there's a realm where we weren't even going to be talking to them tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you heard it in the first interview as well with Tian, but they were looking at a 2-0. Like, that game was close to being 2-0 and wrap it up. And Bliss, like you heard from Lemus, did very well to stay in this game.
Yep.
There was a fight that were 10k gold down. It was like a 0-for-0 trade. They ended up finding picks and taking good fights, but yeah, they were potentially not having an interview today. They could have been 2-0.
Exactly. Their MVP, though, needs to be said, and it being a draw skimmy, you got a lot of players you can pick from.
I'm going to go for Big Sully.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to the man in the jungle. I think he played 2 different brands of the Hecarim and showed that it can work either way.
Max?
Look, if we're going off the one single player in this series that had the most impact on winning a game, I would say it's Daystar, just based off the fact that his Silas game was basically carrying Bliss all across the line. That being said, I do see the argument for Sully as well, and he was my #1 pick for a Mammoth candidate just because of that previous game that he had, ganking all those lanes on Hecarim and having great team fights as well.
Yeah, I would have said Sully. I would have said Sully during the game, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I already said he's the MVP, so
I definitely like what Silly did. Like I said, in Game 2, it connected more smoothly, but in Game 1, the ideas were still there. But
Twitch chat's not going to vote for them, though.
I was going to say, let's see.
Twitch chat would vote for Daystar.
It's going to be why not?
Let's see.
Ooh,
Oh,
okay.
Yasin. All right, one we didn't put up there, but it's something credit to be said about, you know, his debut here in the LCO, and we even heard it from Lemus himself, the target prioritization, being able to hold back that combo to know exactly when the right timing is. Yeah, you'll have to see it.
I think that's really formidable to have a KDO 4-1 and 23 when you're playing games as Nautilus and Alistair, where you really need to get into the thick of it. You need to almost, in some cases, sacrifice yourself for the greater good. The fact that you're walking away with only 1 death in 2 games is a testament to say that you are the real deal, that, yeah, you might have some issues with...
He is the greater good.
Right? I mean, it's just insane. A debut and MVP, couldn't ask much more.
Yeah, you definitely can't. Maybe a 2-0 you could have asked. But
Okay,
you know what?
sure.
You know what? I won't. Yeah, maybe a little bit more.
greedy.
Yeah, we won't be too greedy here. But we are going to be a little bit greedy because we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to have our menu log mealtime, so don't go too far.
Came through, right? That live that they pushed out of the fight, they came back and we're back.
We certainly are. Jumping in with the Onslaught of Shadows, looking to try and put everybody to sleep, put them feared and stunned and absolutely destroyed. In jumps Liv, looking to try and go unstoppable, looking to try and be a bit of a clutch factor out of the stasis, and down Angelina Chen finally has been shut down, and of course
There is something to keep him alive. Hook connects.
That was a little bit too clean there. Jorson tries to buffer the hook away to safety. Not going to be the case. Look at the angles, flanked and deleted. There's a shot there, not why not, certainly wanted for himself. A little bit of retribution as Liv drags Cheon right back into his jungle and says, that's where you're going to stay.
I think once more.
We're forcing HP advantages, we're forcing summoner advantages, we're focusing on flash advantages, jumping on in. Does go Yersan, trying to find his moment, trying to find his stun, trying to prevent the reset, and it has been denied again. 2 kills found by Seri. This Viego has not been able to play the game. It's a quadra, it's not the penta. It's denied. Cheon tried to make history being the only person to get 2 pentakills in the